All right, folks, we're going to kick it off with the Deputy Defense Minister Deputy Foreign Minister for the State of Israel and former Israeli Ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Danny Ayalon. Then the Malzberg panel. We will talk about a variety of issues making news today, including some of them just mentioned by John Bachman. Alan Dershowitz will be here, Newsmax contributor, author, of course, and Harvard Law School professor. We're going to talk about Secretary Kerry and how he's handled himself during the peace talks between Israel and Hamas. And then it's Give Me Five. So you got all that coming up, folks, and more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome aboard. A very busy day, and boy, do we have a lineup for you. And in just a moment or two, we'll be joined by, as I mentioned, from Israel, the former Israeli ambassador to the U.S. and current deputy foreign minister for Israel. But I just want to talk about the bill that was not voted on the floor of the House today regarding the emergency appropriations requested by the president for the border crisis. The president wanted $3.75 billion. The Republican bill that was not brought to the floor for a vote contained $659 million, obviously significantly less, and it was for a short amount of time to be readdressed at a later date. There were also provisions in there opposed by Democrats that would put restrictions on policy. And the reason the Speaker did not bring it to the floor for a vote is he had to rely on Republican votes, obviously, because Democrats thought it was too restrictive and too little. But there were too many conservative and Tea Party Republicans who felt this bill did not go far enough in tying the president's hands when it comes to allowing illegals to stay by executive order. They were afraid that the president would use his executive order and his presidential authority to not only give a grant to what some are calling blanket amnesty for 5 to 6 million, but also when it came to these kids, these people, or the youngsters who have come across the border recently and have caused this quote-unquote humanitarian crisis, they felt it didn't go far enough in tying the president's hands. Okay, more on that later with the panel, but we're joined right now by Ambassador Danny Ayalon, former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., and current Deputy Foreign Minister for the State of Israel. And Mr. Ambassador, it's been quite a while since you and I have talked, but great to see you again, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Steve. Former Deputy Minister as well. Now I'm semi-retired. I may go back to politics, but we need to have another election cycle. But I'm right here with you.
Go.
Pleasure to be there.
Okay, well, let me ask you, sir. First of all, I think 16,000 more reservists put on standby by Israel, if I'm not mistaken. The Prime Minister seeming very resolved in his statements about finishing this job with the tunnels. Does any ceasefire, if one is negotiated and agreed to, would that have to include provisions for Israel to remain in Gaza, keep finding and weeding out and blowing up the tunnels, as well as the rocket supplies?
Absolutely, Steve. We see that the concept of deterrence is somewhat anachronistic, because you cannot deter people who are crazed, who are bloodthirsty, who prefer death over lives. You have these Hamas leaders who, of course, are well protected in their bunkers under schools and mosques and hospitals. And, of course, they have the entire population of Gaza as their human shields. So they can continue undeterred the war. So it's not just a matter of deterrence. It's also a matter of neutralizing their capabilities, their rocket capabilities, and, of course, this underground attack tunnels. And I believe that Israel not only has a legitimate demand here, but also it serves the interests of the entire region, Egypt first and foremost, and the other countries which are the more moderate Arab countries that can face best if they are together with us and of course with the international community, this extremism. And there is a network. There is no difference between Hamas and ISIS or Al-Qaeda. There is a network, and Hamas is not part of the solution, it's part of the problem, and this is why it has to be neutralized militarily.
You know, you bring up other countries, and there's a story in the New York Times today, and I'm glad they wrote it because it's been quite obvious. Deafening silence from Saudi Arabia, from Jordan, from Egypt, to the Israeli operation. Because just as I feel on the issue of Iran, Barack Obama has managed to bring unlikely countries together like Israel and Saudi Arabia. I think this defensive maneuver by Israel has also brought kind of a strange alliance, because the aforementioned countries, they don't want any part of Hamas or ISIS or any of the other ones. They see the Islamic threat like Israel does, and I think they're kind of all behind what you guys are doing. Would you agree?
Absolutely. There is a totally new paradigm in the Middle East. The old politics and the old ways are no more. And with the so-called Arab Spring, which has really been revealing itself as a Islamist winter, first and foremost, it goes against their own population, against these fairly moderate regimes who are the natural allies of the United States, like Sisi or Mubarak. And the notion that the choice in the Middle East right now is between a Jeffersonian democracy on the one side and a military regime is not really the comparison. The choice is between terrorism and fundamentalist Islamism and stability. And the forces that can provide stability at this point are the military. Case in point is Egypt, and we have to remember that the military in Egypt is not only an army, also it has some social and economic roles, as they actually finance and own 35% of the economy. So we have to understand that by having this quote-unquote democracy, which means elections is not democracy. And democracy is more the separation of powers. It's the democratic institutions. It's the free press. It's human rights. It's all of those things which are absent. And in order to bring in all these elements, it takes an evolution, not a revolution.
Right.
And we see the Islamists may win by supposedly a democratic election. They go into power, and that's the end of democracy.
Right. Well, let me ask you, why is it that you understand this, and Saudi Arabia understands this, and Egypt understands this, and Jordan understands this, but apparently our government doesn't understand it?
Well, this is something which, it's not for me to answer, Steve. I think that should be answered and analyzed, I think, in Washington to see really if the policies that have been so far forged and implemented, were they very helpful. In May 2009, President Obama came to Cairo to start a new leaf between the United States and the Arab and Muslim world, overlooking Jerusalem, unfortunately. And 5 years later, we should ask ourselves, are we better off? Are relations between the U.S. and the Middle East and the Arabs and the Muslims are better? I would say they're far worse.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let me ask you about the tunnels. I understand that Israel is deploying robots to clear some of those tunnels. How could this have happened, Mr. Ambassador? And does it call into question what Hezbollah has done in the quiet period, if you will, and what threat they may be posing that maybe you're not aware of?
Absolutely. And of course, for the Hezbollah, it would be somewhat more difficult because in the Galilee up north, the soil, the ground is much rockier
Right.
It's not like dunes in the south, like in Gaza. But absolutely, they are working very hard. They are employing actually the old Viet Cong tactics that were used against you guys, against the Americans in Vietnam. And this is something that we knew about, but I don't think that we realized, even our intelligence, I'm not sure, realized the extent of this huge infrastructure and network, warren of tunnels. And when you see how much was put in it, all the cement, all the infrastructure, when we said that the cement has to be monitored, and the people of the world said, well, you cannot block cement, it's needed for schools and, of course, for hospitals, none of the above. It was all used for their tunnels and underground bunkers.
Yeah, that's very, very obvious. Mr. Ambassador, I thank you very much. Great to talk to you. I hope you'll come back soon.
Anytime, Steve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Danny Ayalon, former Israeli ambassador to the United States and former deputy foreign minister for the state of Israel. Yeah, very, very interesting. And this New York Times piece by, I think Kirkpatrick wrote it, really lays out the lay of the land with Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Egypt, really all behind Israel in their fight to eradicate Hamas, because they'd like to see Israel do it for them. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So why our State Department and our White House and our administration doesn't understand that, and they go to Turkey and Qatar to help forge a peace deal or some kind of ceasefire agreement, you'd have to ask John Kerry and Barack Obama. It's above my pay grade, ladies and gentlemen. Up next, we're going to talk about all of this, but we're also going to talk about domestic politics as well on the Malzberg panel. You know it, you love it. Parts 1 and 2 coming up next. Don't go away.
I'm only in my 60s. I've got a nice long life ahead, big plans. So when I found out Medicare doesn't pay all my medical expenses, I looked at my options. Then I got a Medicare supplement insurance plan.
If you're eligible for Medicare, you may know it only covers about 80% of your Part B medical expenses. The rest is up to you. Call now and find out about an AARP Medicare supplement insurance plan insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company. Like all standardized Medicare supplement insurance plans, it helps pick up some of what Medicare doesn't pay and could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs.
To me, relationships matter. I've been with my doctor for 12 years. Now I know I'll be able to stick with them.
With these types of plans, you'll be able to visit any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare patients. Plus, there are no networks and virtually no referrals needed. So don't wait. Call now and request this free decision guide to help you better understand Medicare and which AARP Medicare supplement plan might be best for you. There's a wide range to choose from.
We love to travel, and there's so much more to see. So we found a plan that can travel with us anywhere in the country.
Join the millions of people who have already enrolled in the only Medicare supplement insurance plans endorsed by AARP, an organization serving the needs of people 50 and over for generations. Remember, all Medicare supplement insurance plans help cover what Medicare doesn't pay and could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. Call now to request your free decision guide and learn more about the kinds of plans that will be here for you now and down the road.
I have a lifetime of experience, so I know how important that is.
On Newsmax TV, Dick Morris says Obama doesn't care about the border, but he does have a secret plan to keep the Democrats in power. Watch Dick Morris today on America's Forum with J.D. Hayworth. Go now to Newsmax TV.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back. It's time for the Malzberg panel, and joining us today, columnist for Breitbart.com and American thinker C. Edmund Wright, and Forbes contributor Carrie Sheffield, and I'll have you know, Carrie, that your boss will be on, your ultimate boss will be on with us a little bit later on, Steve Forbes. So I will report to him how you performed today here.
Oh, excellent. Tell him hello for me.
Will do. All right, but to both of you, let's look at what was not voted on today in the House, and that is the Republican answer to the president's request for emergency aid for the border crisis. And the Republican bill had $659 million in it as opposed to $3.75 billion. It was for a certain amount of time. It also imposed some restrictions on policy to guide the president, if you will. Democrats weren't going to vote for it, so they needed to pass it with Republican votes. And because of the conservatives and the Tea Party members in the caucus, they could not get enough votes, so Boehner did not bring it up for a vote. They wanted even more restrictions on Obama's executive order ability to grant, status to illegals and have them stay here. So what exactly does this mean, Edmund? It's now dead until they come back, but Republicans now going to be blamed as going home without helping this humanitarian crisis?
Yeah, well, they may be, and if they do, John Boehner has nobody to blame but himself. The people who wrote this bill were ex-McCain staffers, people who, were known to reach across the aisle and work with Democrats. There was no way that group was going to come up, with a bill that was going to, get the conservative votes in Congress. So, frankly, the polling is turning against the president on this dramatically anyway. But if it does hurt the Republicans, it's John Boehner's fault.
Yeah, and Carrie, talk about that, but also Ted Cruz was whipping last night, if you will, against the Boehner border bill. Say that 3 times fast, the Boehner border bill.
Well, I tell you who I think the bigger culprit here in all this. It's obviously President Obama. And, Congresswoman Kay Granger pointed something out here, and that is that Obama and the rest of the mainstream media, and let's be honest, the mainstream media is 80 to 90% people who identify as liberal or Democrat, according to the Media Research Center. The media is creating this myth that we need to conflate this humanitarian crisis with overall immigration reform, and they are completely 2 different things, and Obama is trying to blame the Republicans, and I think that's where we should be pointing the blame.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Something else that did pass the House last night, of course, and that's the lawsuit, support for the lawsuit by John Boehner and the Congress against President Obama. Carrie, you think this is the right way to go?
Well, that's what I'm worried about too. I agree with the merits of the case in the sense that this does seem to be a extreme reach of executive authority. And this is the same thing that the liberals were saying about George W. Bush, except for this is black and white. It's in the law, and he is just completely continuing to flout that. So regardless of the merits, the media is going to whip this up as some sort of witch hunt, and it's happening right before the election. So I'm actually worried about what this could mean for the Senate.
Edmund?
Yeah, another mistake by John Boehner. He is so traumatized from the Clinton impeachment, and he got the wrong lesson from that. If you're going to impeach somebody or you're going to sue somebody like this, you better do it with both barrels blazing, no apologies, pedal to the metal, or don't do it at all. And what this was is kind of a half measure. It's the worst possible thing you could do. You should go full force or don't go at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go lawsuit, first of all, as has been alluded to here, there's more than just the Affordable Care Act changes. There are several changes, and why he only chose to focus on one, I really don't understand.
Well, the other problem is that the media, again, the liberal Democratic media is going to conflate this lawsuit with impeachment as well. I mean, the Republicans are not doing impeachment action, but they're trying in the voters' minds. Unless you follow it like us, the political junkies, where it's 24/7 for us, your average voter, in their mind, in a swing state, they might just think, "Oh, it's those dumb Republicans again." When it's a very tailored, and I agree that this could have been done in a much better way, and especially with the timing with regard to the election. I'm just worried about the conflation here.
And you know who's leading the charge here? True, the liberal media is picking up with it and running, but I have a Give Me Five commentary where Sheila Jackson Lee and Nancy Pelosi and Debbie Wasserman Schultz are all included. But I think you got to hear. I want you both to hear and the folks to watch Sheila Jackson Lee on the floor of the House yesterday. And there's an irony here, which I'll get to in a second. But watch.
I ask my colleagues to oppose this resolution, for it is, in fact, a veiled attempt for impeachment, and it undermines the law that allows a president to do his job. A historical fact that President Bush pushed this nation into a war. It had little to do with apprehending terrorists. We did not seek an impeachment of President Bush because, as an executive, he had his authority. President Obama has the authority.
All right, well, the problem with that is that when Dennis Kucinich put forth the bill to impeach George W. Bush, the reports I have and the information I have is that Sheila Jackson Lee was one of a few co-sponsors to impeach George W. Bush.
Yeah, well, and she also said that we went to war, and it was liberals and Democrats who voted for that war, including John Kerry and Hillary Clinton. So she has no ground to be standing upon. And this has nothing to do with impeachment. This is totally separate. This is a fundraising pitch. The Democrats want to make millions of dollars off this myth, this meme of impeachment.
Edmund, you know, you never know what they're going to say on the left, do you?
Right. Well, you mentioned three people that I'm not sure between them have a discernible IQ of 100 combined. You know, but the situation. Obama admitted last week in a fundraiser in Los Angeles that their voters were low information voters, didn't even know there was a midterm coming up. I mean, he didn't say he was admitting they were low information voters, but that's what he meant. And Sheila Jackson Lee is appealing to that base, trying to gin them up, turn them out, and raise some money. There wasn't a single syllable she said that was actually accurate.
All right, folks, we're going to come back with C. Edmund Wright and Carrie Sheffield for part 2 of the Malzberg panel. We'll throw in some foreign affairs and news from the Middle East as well. And speaking of news, keep tuned right here for your Newsmax Now update, which is coming your way next. And it's all right here on the Steve Malzberg Show, part 2 of the Malzberg panel. Want to reach us? Here's how you do it.
As women, we always talk about how we should look or what's the best way to lose weight. But for me, it finally became all about how I feel. No tricks, just me. I looked in the mirror and I saw what I didn't want to see, the truth. I was 50 pounds overweight. That was a rough day. That's when I decided I had to lose weight. So I chose the only simple option for me, Nutrisystem.
Now you can lose weight even faster with the Fast 5 kit from Nutrisystem. Lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Order your 28-day My Way plan and we'll rush you the Fast 5 kit free. You'll get a week of fantastic energizing shakes, 1 week of delicious Craving Crusher shakes, and a free week of 21 delicious meals, and it's all free.
So why do I keep telling you about Nutrisystem? Because it works, and I know it'll work for you.
Call 877-271-DIET and lose your first 5 pounds free.
How long have you had your car insurance?
How long have I had my car insurance? I don't know, 8, 10 years?
Well, I couldn't tell you, but things were a lot less expensive back then.
If you're 50 or over, you should take a new look at your auto insurance. You may be overpaying.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Old policy, old rates.
And thanks to your experience behind the wheel, you might save $404 by switching to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. Plus, you'll get benefits that reward your driving record, like our promise that you won't be dropped.
Wait, you won't drop me? Seriously?
That's right, you won't be dropped. And if you know anyone who's been dropped by their insurance company, you know that's a hassle you don't need.
Especially these days.
Plus, you'll get Recover Care, which helps pay for everyday needs like house cleaning, lawn care, and pet services if you're injured in an accident.
So my auto insurance is going to help pay the house cleaning if I'm injured?
Did you say lawn care?
And if I can't walk my dog, They'll help me pay someone to do it for me.
Call the number on your screen to switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford and be rewarded for your experience behind the wheel.
Recover Care, auto insurance that helps take care of me. Now I've seen it all.
You won't drop me, you take care of me as well as my car, and you offer savings to switch. It's unbelievable.
If you're 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
I'm gonna call.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
Call the Hartford at the number on your screen to request your free quote. 1-888-529-1797. We'll even send you this free calculator. Call 1-888-529-1797 now. Why wait?
A serious health warning makes waves. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that story tops your Newsmax Now update. Health officials say a flesh-eating bacteria that lives in the ocean has now claimed the life of nearly half a dozen people and hospitalized more than 30 others. The bacteria infected swimmers in Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, and Alabama. Those with a bad immune system or who have an open wound should avoid going into the water. And an endangered species may be endangering the lives of some Florida livestock. That's according to farmers in the Sunshine State. They say they're seeing a rising number of panthers. Panthers have been on the endangered species list since 1976. The National Wildlife Federation estimates less than 100 are left in the wild. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that's your Newsmax Now update. Let's head back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, part two of the Malzberg panel. Columnist for Breitbart.com and American thinker C. Edmund Wright and Forbes contributor Carrie Sheffield. Let me ask both of you about a New York Times story today which speaks out about what has been very, very obvious. And that is that 2 years ago when Israel went at it with Hamas, you heard the Arab world condemning and you heard country after country speaking out. But now you hear deafening silence from the likes of Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, and it is very, very telling, Edmund, that as the former foreign minister and former U.S. ambassador from Israel said to us earlier in the show, that there's a whole new world out there, and it's a whole new world that recognizes, at least within the Middle East, that Hamas is bad, and they don't want any part of Hamas either because they feel threatened.
Well, and you know what? It seems like that perception's finally catching up with reality. Steve, for decades, the reality has been that Hamas hides its weapons behind its children, and Israel hides its children behind its weapons. So there's never been any moral equivalency, and maybe it's kind of like the gun debate after Newtown. Finally, there's been a critical mass of understanding of what the issues are, and sort of the knee-jerk liberal reaction is no longer, worldwide.
Carrie?
Yeah, no, I want to temper this. I think part of it is Hamas has alienated its own allies. So it pissed off Iran because it refused to back the government in Syria. It backed the Muslim Brotherhood, which was toppled in Egypt. So I wouldn't say necessarily that these guys are becoming that much more warm and fuzzy. I want to see the proof in the pudding. But, I mean, it is somewhat positive that these other states are starting to speak out. I mean, but there are other states that are filling in that void, like Turkey, for example. I mean, the President Erdogan saying that what Israel has done is worse than what Hitler did to the Jews. I mean, that's incredibly offensive, especially coming from a NATO country.
Actually, you make my point. Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, Carrie, not to interrupt, but how on earth could this country be a member of NATO?
Yeah, no, it's pretty mind-blowing. And also Doha, I mean, Qatar, where the head of Hamas is hiding out in Doha, and getting funding from other Arab states. So while there may be a few, as the New York Times suggests, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, we'll see what actually happens. Yeah, well, it's going to be very interesting the rest of the way as world opinion certainly goes after Israel. Both of you, I thank you both, C. Edmund Wright and Carrie Sheffield. Thanks for being on the panel. Appreciate it very much. Thanks. All right, folks, so we are going to continue this line of questioning when it comes to the Middle East with
Alan Dershowitz. That's right, the one and only Alan Dershowitz. And as I've told you folks, I see him on CNN especially, surrounded with two other guests who are basically pro-Palestinian, a host who is basically, in my view, pro-Palestinian, and it's stacked 3-1, and he just does great work in speaking what he believes to be the truth. And we'll be back with Alan Dershowitz after the break. But first, before we even get to Alan, we're going to get to Alan. Now, what am I talking about? Well, here's a You and the Law segment with Alan Dershowitz. And here he's going to talk about police records.
Have you ever been stopped by a policeman for a traffic violation? Of course you have. Millions of Americans are regularly stopped by the police for traffic violations and other reasons. Now here's the question. Is it legal for you to surreptitiously hit the record button on your smartphone and tape the conversation with the police? Well, it all depends on which state you were stopped. If you were in about a dozen states like Massachusetts, California, or Florida, don't go near your record button. In Massachusetts, the top court has ruled that recording a policeman is a crime unless you tell the cop you're doing it. Many states have privacy laws that make secret recording of anyone illegal. And in some states, you're free to record the policemen in the exercise of their duty, but not to record other ordinary citizens. Illinois passed a draconian law saying that if you tape a police officer on the job, you could face as much as 15 years in prison. An appellate court overturned the law, and the Supreme Court upheld that specific ruling, but it failed to rule on the issue as a whole. The Massachusetts case was particularly egregious because the cops were spouting racist talk to an African-American driver who recorded the conversation to protect himself. Instead of the cop being fired, the victim of the racist talk was prosecuted. Bad decision, but it's still the law in that state. In 38 states like New York and Virginia, it's legal to turn on the record button, but don't do it. In general, I advise you not to, because if the policeman catches you, he might figure out some way of getting even. And don't forget that in almost all states, it's legal for the police to audio and videotape you. Many police, even on traffic stops, have microphones attached to their body and are recording your comments. In other places, the police have video on the hood of their car and they're recording your movements. So don't forget that fact and remember your state laws and act accordingly. I'm Alan Dershowitz for Newsmax TV.
Smile. No matter how well you provide for your family today, if you don't have life insurance, their future may be at risk. Think about what would happen if you were gone. Would they struggle to pay the bills and face an uncertain future? They don't have to. You can help guarantee those you love $200,000, $500,000, $750,000 or more with life insurance through AIG Direct. We'll help you get more for your money, up to 70% more. Just look, less than $14 a month buys a 40-year-old man a $250,000 term life policy. That's up to 3 times what you can get from other companies for the same price. No wonder millions of people rely on AIG companies. The call is free, the quote is free, and there's no obligation. Make the future more secure for those you love. Call now so you can sleep better at night.
For a free quote, call 1-800-558-5246 or visit AIGdirect.com.
Could you afford to have your wealth cut in half? Pat Boone here. It seems the news gets scarier and scarier, doesn't it? Now, respected economists and even billionaires warn we're on the eve of a massive wealth destruction. Stock charts show amazing similarities to the months before the 1929 crash. Could they be right? Could Americans face an economic crisis worse than 2008? Closing banks and slicing portfolio values in half? Yes, they could. Now, how would you survive if your wealth crumbled overnight? Nobody knows when wealth destruction may hit, but one thing I do know for sure, it's wise to have a gold and silver foundation before a crisis. Some timeless wealth insurance. Why don't you call the folks at Swiss America for their timeless truth about money kit? Better to be a month early than 1 second late. Call now.
My name is J.D. Hayworth, and I'm employed as anchor analyst at Newsmax TV. As a free people, as Americans, there can be a unity of purpose, but it's not always unanimous. I believe what we have a chance to offer is a key choice. If you want a perspective, independent, American, original, free, it'll be here at Newsmax TV.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Today, we are continuing to work toward establishing an unconditional humanitarian ceasefire, one that could honor Eid, which begins now, and that will stop the fighting, allow desperately needed food and medicine and other supplies into Gaza, and enabled Israel to address the threat which we fully understand and which is real, the threat posed by tunnel attacks, and to be able to do so without having to resort to combat.
Okay, that's almost sounds like a magician's trick, but joining us now to talk about all this and more is our friend Alan Dershowitz, Newsmax contributor, author, and of course professor of law at Harvard Law School. Hey, Alan.
Well, I hope it's true. Israel has accepted 5 ceasefire offers, and in each of them, people have been killed, its own soldiers have been killed, because Hamas violates it, and they often violate it from UN sanctuaries. Just the other day, 5 Israelis who went in to protect a UN sanctuary were booby-trapped to death by Hamas when they were trying to get at a tunnel which was built, the entrance was built in a place marked by the UN. And in the past couple of days, Israel was fired at by UN schools in the area and had to return fire, and the results have been disastrous. Innocent people have died, but the world is blaming the wrong people for these deaths. It's part of Hamas's plan. You know, anybody out there who reasonably and understandably sympathizes with the Palestinians who have been killed but doesn't understand that it's Hamas's fault is simply increasing the number of Palestinians who will die, because when the Hamas strategy works, and it's working now with the media, it just encourages Hamas to do this over and over again, to put their own citizens in harm's way.
Absolutely, and I told you this off the air, I'll say it on the air. I have always been proud of our affiliation, but never so proud as when you're there night after night on whether it's CNN or anywhere else, surrounded by 2 others, and if you include the host, usually it's 3 others, who have a different point of view, and you just hammer home the truth in the face of interruption, in the face of mockery at many times, and you can't see their expressions on their faces. I do, and it's better that you don't, because, again, I'm just so proud of how you're out there telling the truth.
Well, I appreciate it. You know, it's easy to defend Israel. All you have to do is put out the facts. All you have to do is put out the undisputed facts that you can see on video, you can see on camera, you can see Hamas using human shields, and you can see Israel trying desperately to avoid civilian casualties. Every time Israel kills a civilian, it hurts Israel. It hurts Israel's image, it hurts Israel's military prowess, it hurts them at home, it hurts them abroad. Why would any Israeli soldier try purposely to kill a Palestinian civilian? It's Hamas who tries to get Israel to kill Palestinian civilians. There's a photograph that's online now of a father kind of basically nailing his 2 children up to the front of the house to use them as human shields.
Oh, my God.
I mean, that's just outrageous. And if those kids were killed, we wouldn't know that. All we would see is the pictures of the dead children, which, by the way, violates Islamic tradition. Under Islamic tradition, you're not supposed to show the dead. They're supposed to be covered and buried immediately, but they make an exception for what they call, or what we call, the dead baby strategy. That is, put babies and children in harm's way deliberately, then show the pictures when they're killed, and blame it all on Israel, and the world gets outraged at Israel, and it leads to anti-Semitic attacks all over the world, in France and England and Germany.
Yeah.
And so Hamas's strategy is working. It's working because the media encourages it.
And Alan, you know, shouldn't the media have learned a lot of these videos that we see, and I'm not saying they're not real, I don't know, but I argue that the media outlets don't know. They're getting these from Hamas, and they've run on Hamas television. They use them and they repeat them. Now, haven't they learned from the false Jenin massacre? Haven't they learned from the fake Palestinian funerals? Haven't they learned from the footage of the same supposed dead child being carried in and out of an ambulance hours apart? I mean, they just don't fact check.
Well, one of the most brutal and gruesome of the pictures of a dead child turned out to be a child killed in Syria by Syrian rebels.
Yes, the gassing, yeah.
Yeah, but they simply, every time there's a dead child, they say Israel must be at fault. You know, it reminds me of the old blood libel. When dead children were found in Eastern Europe in the 12th and 13th centuries, they would always say, you know, some Jew killed him to use his blood to bake matzah, the blood libel. Hamas, by the way, is still spreading that blood libel. You can go online and listen to Hamas leaders as recently as 2 or 3 days ago saying that Israel kills children because it's part of its religious tradition. They were required in the Bible to kill children, by the way, the Bible that's both the Christian and the Jewish Bible, to kill children and use their blood in matzah.
Yeah, just awful. Let me ask you a couple more things, Alan. A big story in the New York Times today, and I'm glad they wrote it because it's been quite obvious for those who wanted to notice it, and that is that the very obvious and very speaks volumes by their silence, Saudi Arabia, Jordan. You look at the Arab countries; they're not out there. We are condemning Israel more than Jordan and Saudi Arabia and Egypt, of course. They want Israel to do what they're doing. They'd love to see Israel wipe out Hamas because they're afraid of Hamas.
Right, and the only people who are siding with Hamas are the two real villains behind this war, and that is Qatar and Turkey. If not for Qatar and Turkey harboring murderous war criminals, providing financial support, military support. If not for that, this war never would have been started by Hamas. And Qatar, as you know, is the host of the World Cup in 2022. It has various American universities, and the Qatarian government is now a criminal government. They are complicitous with war criminals, and every time they provide material support to Hamas, which is a designated terrorist group, they violate American law. And so I can tell you the next time a Qatarian diplomat comes to the United States, I suspect there are going to be some lawsuits.
Well, then what the heck was Kerry doing over there negotiating a ceasefire with them in Turkey?
In an article I'm writing now, I say I understand why you have to deal with the devil, but you have to recognize that he is the devil, that Qatar is the devil here. And, you know, if they could get Hamas to buy into a ceasefire, okay, you deal with whoever you have to deal with, but don't praise them. Don't think of them as part of the solution. They're part of the problem, and Turkey is too. Turkey's crazy prime minister has just ordered his Jewish citizens, this is a Turkish prime minister, ordering his Jewish citizens to write a statement condemning the Israeli government and saying, if you don't do it, we will not regard you as good Turks. I mean, that's just the old-fashioned dual loyalty, a canard raising its ugly head again, and he has stimulated anti-Semitism throughout Turkey, and they're a member of NATO. I think their membership in NATO has to be rethought. I think that Qatar's claim to have the World Cup in 2022 has to be rethought. The 3 American universities that have campuses in Qatar have to rethink whether they really want their students and faculty to be educated by a terrorist country. These are really, really difficult questions that are raising now.
Yeah, and of course, the World Cup is scheduled to be in Russia, too, I think, before them or after.
We picked them really well.
Don't we? All right, I want you to hear something from, I want to go back to the media one more time here. This is Joe Scarborough, apparently this morning. Shocking to me, really shocking. Let's all listen to this.
I'm sorry, this is asinine. This continued killing of women and children in a way that appears to be indiscriminate is asinine. It is bad. Of course, it's tragic for the Palestinian people. It is bad for the Israeli people. I mean, we will rue the day that this is happening every day, and women and children are being seen, because you know what? As much as we all hate Hamas, what is going to replace Hamas is going to be much worse.
So he's condemning Israel, and then this line that, we need Hamas there because we don't know what's coming next. The State Department has even said that.
Did you see the Freudian slip on his show?
Yes, Mika said Jew. Well, yes, we'll be back. Morning Jew, yes.
Yeah, Morning Jew.
The daughter of Zbigniew Brzezinski, who's a big, in my view, let's just say, anti-Israel person.
Yeah, well, I think we'll stop at that.
Yeah.
But some people have gone a bit further than that. Now, the idea that Hamas will be replaced by somebody worse, absolutely false. What could be worse than a group that says we don't believe in Israel's right to exist? We want to, quote, exterminate every Jew who lives in Israel. They are playing ball with Hezbollah, whose leader says he hopes all the Jews in the world will come to Israel so we won't have to go after them the way Hitler did. We can kill them all in one shot. Let me tell you, the devil we know is as bad as any possible devil. So I would be very happy to see Hamas disabled, demilitarized, and the world can fight what comes next.
Gotcha. Alan, I appreciate it. Enjoy your time wherever you are, and thank you for, like I said, for speaking the truth.
Thank you.
Take care. Alan Dershowitz, folks. Newsmax contributor. Don't forget that part. And, of course, author and a professor of law at Harvard Law School. Yeah, when I see him sitting there next to Mark Lamont Hill, Mark Lamont Hill and I over the years have had our debates, but Mark Lamont Hill is either a virulent anti-Semite or an ignoramus. You pick, because I'll give you those two choices. That's my opinion, which I'm entitled to. And he's welcome to come on the show anytime and debate me. All right, folks, we are coming back. Give Me Five is next.
Falls are the #1 cause of injury to senior citizens. Falling down stairs can be disastrous. Acorn Stair Lifts has a solution. Just don't fall. Sit, relax, ride with an Acorn Stair Lift, the world's leader in stair lifts. That's right. Don't let limited mobility keep you from going up and down your stairs, even outside. Call Acorn Stair Lifts now for a free information kit and no obligation quote. Now you can safely ride with your Acorn Stair Lift.
Now I don't have to worry about him climbing those stairs again.
And our Acorn Stair Lift was very affordable. Our Acorn Stair Lift is definitely more affordable than moving.
The Acorn Stair Lift has a padded seat and backrest for maximum comfort. It easily folds up for access to the stairway. 5 safety sensors stop your Acorn Stair Lift if there's something in the way. And it even runs during power outages.
And I'm the king of my own castle again.
You'll be working directly with the world's leader in stair lifts. That's right, there's no middleman. Acorn's trained technicians professionally install your stair lift directly to the staircase, in most cases in 2 hours or less, with no need for special construction. We don't leave until you're completely comfortable using your Acorn Stair Lift.
Don't risk a serious fall down the stairs.
I was really surprised at how little they cost.
Call for your free no-obligation information kit and quote from Acorn Stair Lifts. Just don't fall. Safely ride up and down your steps.
Give your life a lift with an Acorn Stair Lift.
Call 1-800-514-1402 for your free information kit. That number again is 1-800-514-1402. Or visit our website today.
Call now.
Technology gives you security. Technology gives you control. And now, technology gives you home security and control in a new and revolutionary way. Introducing Plug and Protect from LiveWatch Security, an easy-to-use wireless security system customized just for your home, controlled from any smartphone, tablet, or computer, and monitored by professionals 24/7. Go to livewatch.com to get Plug and Protect interactive security delivered to your door. Arm or disarm your system from anywhere. Lock or unlock your doors. Turn your lights off or on. Even oversee your home with live video. With Plug and Protect, your security system is configured, tested, and then shipped directly to your home. No wires, no installers, just peel and place. Go to livewatch.com because with Plug and Protect, we customize your security to fit your home. The Plug and Protect secret is technology. With technology, you buy airline tickets without a travel agent. You trade stocks without a stockbroker. Now, with Plug and Protect, you can protect your home without an installer, pushy salesman, or a long contract.
Every day, the kids got out of school before I left work. I worried whether they were home okay. But then I found Plug and Protect from LiveWatch. And now I see when they open the front door, so I know they're home safe. LiveWatch helps me stay in touch and in control.
Founded by a paramedic in Kansas, serving tens of thousands of homes in all 50 states, and trusted by policemen and firemen throughout the country, LiveWatch is the new choice for home security. No door-to-door salespeople, no messy installers, no long-term contracts, just plug and protect. Now you too can enjoy the home security and control you want for your family. Try Plug and Protect in your home for a full 90 days. Included is our hassle-free guarantee. Go to livewatch.com. Plug and Protect is not available in stores, so go to livewatch.com right now. That's livewatch.com.
We're talking about restoring civil rights here, of course. You know, you stirred up a lot of controversy with the 2010 comments.
Me?
And
controversy?
Part of what you said at the time, Senator, was that you had concerns about the rules for private business while you support most of the Civil Rights Act. Why did you evolve on rules for private business?
What I would say is that, to be fair to myself, because I like to be fair to myself, is that I've always been in favor of the Civil Rights Act. So people need to get over themselves writing all this stuff that I've changed my mind on the Civil Rights Act.
All right, folks. Rand Paul, very possibly presidential candidate for 2016 on the Republican side. And welcome to Gimme 5. He was on MSNBC, and this accusation that, you know, he's changed his mind on the Civil Rights Act. He put an end to all that nonsense, and in doing so, he rightfully blasted the very network that he was on. Watch.
Have I ever had a philosophical discussion about all aspects of it? Yeah, and I learned my lesson. To come on MSNBC and have a philosophical discussion, the liberals will come out of the woodwork and they will go crazy and say you're against the Civil Rights Act and you're some terrible racist. And I take great objection to that, because in Congress, I think nobody else trying harder to get people back their voting rights, to get people back and make the criminal justice system fair. So I take great offense to people who want to portray me as something that I'm not.
Yep, and then Melber, he doesn't give up. He pursues the line of questioning.
But when you said, well, here, the rules for private businesses are concerning, why not explain that you've evolved on that?
Well, because I never was opposed to the Civil Rights Act, and I've been attacked by half a dozen people on your network trying to say that I'm opposed to the Civil Rights Act, and somehow now I've changed. So I'm not really willing to engage with people who are misrepresenting, you know, my viewpoint on this.
I mean, good for him. Good for him for calling out the folks who have misrepresented his statements. And if it's the MSNBC folks, half dozen of them, then good for him for calling out the MSNBC folks. And he does not shy away. He goes on.
I have never been against the Civil Rights Act. I have never said I was against it. So for people to say that, really, they don't want to have an honest discussion about it.
Right. No, I think the honest discussion is, you said that some titles of it, Title II and Title VII, that relate to
the honest discussion of
businesses.
It would be that I never was opposed to the Civil Rights Act. And when your network does 24-hour news telling the truth, then maybe we can get somewhere with the discussion.
Ooh, how below the belt was that one? Woo! All right. Well, they also had, by the way, Cory Booker, Senator Cory Booker from the state of New Jersey. I still can't believe I say that. Senator Cory Booker from the state of New Jersey was also sitting there in studio, and the conversation turned to drug sentencing laws and the criminal justice system, and here's more.
Senator Paul, in your view, is the enforcement of the war on drugs racist?
Well, I think it has a racial outcome, I think is a better way to put it. I think it's inadvertent, so I don't think everybody's plotting to make it that way. But you can't escape the facts that, you know, 3 out of 4 people in prison are black or brown for drug problems. And frankly, I think it has to do with several things. It's easier to arrest people who live in poverty. It's easier to arrest people who live close together. It's easier to arrest people where there are more patrols going on. And then we also give government grants to the police force based on arrest and conviction records.
So you think it's accidentally racist?
Well, yeah, I think it has a racial outcome.
All right. Everything Rand Paul described, people living close together, people living in poverty, whatever, all those things he described, increased patrols in those areas, is because he's describing high crime neighborhoods. okay? That's why there's more arrests in those neighborhoods. And it's not like the people aren't doing what's against the law. They're doing it, and they're getting arrested for it because it's a high crime neighborhood. That's not too hard to figure out. Here's one more.
I think there's even stronger motivation that, if I told you, 10 people were being put to death that were black for every one, you'd be concerned, would there be a racial element to that? Yeah, I think it should give us more drive to fix the problem, but the problem really of the war on drugs is taking a lot of people who make youthful mistakes, it's punishing them for a lifetime, and I think if we can get them back into both voting as well as working, they're much less likely to get in trouble.
All right, well, you break the law, you get punished. If you know what the punishment is, you don't break the law. Okay, we're coming back, folks, but first stay tuned for your Newsmax Now update.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Mary had LifeLock's bank account alerts, she may have been notified in time to help stop the damage. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, helping protect you before damage can be done to your identity. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, helping guard your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to help protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose. When you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to help keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry continues his three-day visit in India today. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that story tops your Newsmax Now update. Kerry arrived in the country to participate in a fifth round of annual talks between India and the U.S., known as the India-U.S. Strategic Dialogue. Today's conversation focused on environmental issues. Kerry praised the relationship between the two countries, saying the U.S. and India should become indispensable partners. While there, he also took time to speak on the developing situation in Gaza.
With respect to Gaza, we've never stopped working towards the notion that a ceasefire at some point is essential.
Kerry says there's no promise that a negotiated ceasefire between Israel and Hamas militants will take place. However, he adds he remains hopeful that an end to the violence is achievable. Kerry will conclude his three-day India visit tomorrow. Well, it may be some time before we see that peaceful resolution. This as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just toughened his stance on his country's incursion into the Gaza Strip today. Netanyahu says Israeli forces will destroy the Hamas tunnel network with or without a ceasefire. Israeli military officials say they have already destroyed most of the tunnels. The European Union moves forward with its sanctions on Russia today. European leaders from 28 countries revealed the names of 5 Russian banks that will receive the sanctions. President Obama called for punishing Russia's economy earlier in the week, saying the U.S. has found evidence of firing missiles into Ukraine and supporting separatists in the region. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that's your Newsmax Now update. More coming your way in about 30 minutes. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, the 40th anniversary of the resignation of Richard Nixon as President of the United States is not far away, and here to talk about it will be Ben Stein, actor, author, economist, and former speechwriter for Presidents Nixon and Ford, also Dreams columnist for Newsmax magazine. So he'll be here very shortly. Then David Harsanyi, nationally syndicated columnist and senior editor at The Federalist. He's going to discuss with us his biting column, What is John Kerry Thinking? And Elizabeth Warren, is she overrated? We'll talk about all of that. Christopher Hahn, host of The Christopher Hahn Show. We will debate the issues of the day, both domestically and internationally. All that, give me five, and more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, some breaking news. The market took a hit today among the concerns of Wall Street, the default in Argentina, and the Dow closing down 316 points. Last I was able to check, I believe that is a final close. Also, the NASDAQ took a 93-point hit, and the S&P finished down 39 points. Losing all the profits or the run-up that they made in the month of July. And, of course, today, the last trading day of the month of July. So we'll see how the market will react tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, we have the jobs numbers. We had the GDP numbers, of course, earlier. Steve Forbes, by the way, will join us a little bit later on in the show, top of the next hour, to talk about all of this. So make sure you keep it tuned right here. We also have some news on the bill that did not come to the floor of the House for a vote. The emergency humanitarian aid bill for the children who have come to the border. The Republican version of the bill did not have enough Republican support. And one reason, reportedly, according to the Daily Caller, is that the bill would have allowed youths from Mexico to use the same unaccompanied alien child loophole that the children from the other countries have been using. The 2008 law that is currently in effect, that was used to stop sex trafficking of children. Now Mexican children would have been able to use that same loophole if this bill had passed. That's one reason why it didn't. Okay, Ben Stein's about to join us. Let's go back and watch Richard Nixon.
The interests of the nation must always come before any personal considerations. From the discussions I have had with congressional and other leaders, I have concluded that because of the Watergate matter, I might not have the support of the Congress that I would consider necessary to back the very difficult decisions and carry out the duties of this office in the way the interests of the nation will require. I have never been a quitter. To leave office before my term is completed is abhorrent to every instinct in my body. But as president, I must put the interests of America first.
All right, folks, that speech, August 8th, 1974, effective noon, August 9th, 1974. And joining us now is Ben Stein, actor, author, economist, former speechwriter for President Nixon and Ford, and Dreams columnist for Newsmax magazine. Hello, Ben.
Oh, God, when you played that, tears started to come to my eyes. That day and the next day were the two worst days of my life.
Well, that's
that was just horrifying. It was just horrifying.
That's what I want to talk about as we approach the anniversary here. I saw your column, "The Truth About Nixon."
You guys ran the absolutely, in Newsmax magazine, the absolutely best ever magazine story about Nixon. You guys should get crowns in heaven for that.
Well, let's thank you very much, and let's talk about the portrayal of Richard Nixon through these many decades. Has, in your view, and what you knew of him, and what you how you feel about him, has it changed? Has it gotten better? Has history looked at him differently in more recent years as compared to at the time?
I like him more every day. I would say I worship the man, and I consider him the bravest president of the 20th century, second only in terms of his bravery to Abraham Lincoln ever in American history. I consider him the greatest peacemaker there's ever been in American history. As a Jew, I consider him the best friend the Jews have ever had. The thought that this man was hounded from office by a lot of wormy, dishonest, horrible little guys and gals just makes me sick.
What did you know at the time? In other words, you say
Well,
it was
I
the worst
knew
2
that-
days of your life. Did you help craft this speech?
No, I did not at all. In fact, they came to us, all of us speechwriters, and they said, do any of you have an idea of a last-ditch Watergate speech that would save the Nixon presidency? And I said, yes, I think Mr. Nixon should say, I'm sorry, I did the things in terms of obstruction of justice that I'm accused of doing. They're very small things compared with what President Kennedy or President Johnson did, but I acknowledge I did them. But look at the peace I brought to the world. Look at the accomplishments I brought to the world. Please try to see this in realistic terms. Nobody's perfect, and I'm nowhere near perfect. And I don't claim to be perfect, but I claim to have brought a lot of peace to the world, a lot of security to the United States of America. I'd like that to be factored into the judgment on me. And I believe there's still much more to do, and I'd like you to be forbearing and give me the opportunity to do that, to build an even more lasting generation of peace for your children and grandchildren. But I will acknowledge I made mistakes, and I'm sorry, and as I say, I hope you'll put them in context.
But that didn't happen.
No. Actually, I think I forget who said it, but one of Nixon's aides. I hope contrition, he said, is BS. I won't say the full word on a family show, but contrition is BS. And but I said no. Americans, I think, appreciate an apology, and that we should have had an apology. But Nixon at that point was in a very, very emotional state. A very, very, very emotional state. I mean, I don't think anyone knows except Julie and David and Tricia and a few other people just how, and of course Mrs. Nixon is now long gone, how emotional he was. But I happened to learn just by chance just how far gone he was emotionally, and so it wasn't going to happen that he was going to be able to make a rational decision like that.
All right, and of course, the accomplishment you mentioned as a Jew, of course, he saved Israel at the behest of Golda Meir.
Saved Israel. He saved Israel when Golda Meir had screwed up unbelievably badly, just unimaginably badly. And Mr. Nixon saved Israel, and something no other president has ever done, not even come close to doing.
By sending the military supplies that they needed.
Sending military supplies. No American soldier has ever been sent to fight for Israel. There's never been an American life lost fighting for Israel. There was a terrible incident of the U.S. Liberty where Israeli planes accidentally strafed a U.S. Navy ship, but that was a terrible thing. Israel apologized.
And of course, Ben, China and ending the war in Vietnam, as you alluded to as well.
And also strategic arms limitation talks with the Soviet, and the first time that had ever happened, that's peace indeed. We lived until the rise of the Islamic terrorists in a world of peace that Richard Nixon had made for us. He set about to create a generation of peace, and he did it. And it's just an astonishing achievement. And now it's all been torn away by the Islamic extremists and by the incredible weakness, unbelievable weakness of Barack Obama.
I want to get to that, but I also want to say my memories, besides of Nixon the politician as a kid growing up, when I started my career in sports at WABC Radio and covering the Yankees, and he was a frequent guest of George Steinbrenner in the private box, which was right next to the press box. and we would see him there often. We almost had, I know he listened to the sports talk show hosted by my mentor, Art Rush Jr., may he rest in peace, and we almost had him on. He was going to come on, but that never worked out, and that would have been a real thrill. But he was a great sports fan as well.
He was a huge sports fan. I will tell you a funny story about Richard Nixon, funny and sad. When he moved from Southern California back to the east to be near his daughters, there was a farewell party thrown for him at his house. He greeted everyone rather perfunctorily and then just went right back to his room, his living room, to watch the Dodgers. And I happened to just be heading in there to use the bathroom, and there Mr. Nixon was, and he said, "Sit down, Ben, watch the game." And it was amazing. He was a huge sports fan, gigantic. And in fact, one of his major speeches, I forget, I think on Vietnam, a huge subject at the time. It would change the day of it so it wouldn't conflict with the Super Bowl.
All right, and one more. We got a couple of minutes left. Last time you were on the show here, you made some news talking about Jew hatred in the media. I've got to say, today Joe Scarborough turned on Israel. That's just an example, but I got to say, it's only gotten worse. The coverage.
No, it's gotten worse.
The coverage has gotten worse.
Jews are not allowed to defend themselves. Jews are not allowed to take up arms and defend themselves. Any other country that's being hit by 100 rockets a day would carpet bomb the country that's doing that to it. Israel doesn't do it. Israel sends warnings to people it's about to bomb. Yesterday on the CBS News, and I love CBS News, and I sometimes work for CBS News, I love them, but they showed a long excerpt about Palestinian children being hit by bombing from Israel. And then only long into it did they say this was in response to 27 rockets being shot at Israel during a 2-hour ceasefire. So, I mean, Israel is not allowed the same privileges as other countries, and that's because of they're Jews. I mean, it's not. People in the world just are terrified of Jews, and it's a very, very sad state of affairs.
You know, the Canadian Prime Minister yesterday came out in unabashed support, unconditional support of what Israel was doing, and I'd love to hear some more foreign leaders. I'd love to hear some more domestic leaders talk like that.
Well, it's amazing. Are you calling me from New York City?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You guys had 2 days ago or 3 days ago a big pro-Israel rally. Your mayor, de Blasio, did not either attend or even send a message, and neither did the head of your city council. And that is a real disgrace.
Not surprising, though, I must say. Hey, by the way, folks, if you want to read Ben's column and so much more, be sure to get the latest issue of Newsmax Magazine by visiting newsmax.com/magazine. Couldn't be easier, right, Ben? Newsmax.com/magazine. Great to talk to you, sir.
It's a great magazine. My column is just one teeny little part of it. It's a great magazine.
Well, we love having you. We're honored to have you on the show, as always. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
You too. All right. Ben Stein, ladies and gentlemen. Very interesting conversation, and we'll be back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show right after this, so don't you go away. And, of course, you're watching Newsmax TV.
How long have you had your car insurance?
How long have I had my car insurance? I don't know, 8, 10 years?
I couldn't tell you, but things were a lot less expensive back then.
If you're 50 or over, you should take a new look at your auto insurance. You may be overpaying.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Old policy, old rates.
And thanks to your experience behind the wheel, you might save $404 by switching to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. Plus, you'll get benefits that reward your driving record, like our promise that you won't be dropped.
Wait, you won't drop me? Seriously?
That's right, you won't be dropped. And if you know anyone who's been dropped by their insurance company, you know that's a hassle you don't need.
Especially these days.
Plus, you'll get Recover Care, which helps pay for everyday needs like house cleaning, lawn care, and pet services if you're injured in an accident.
So my auto insurance is going to help pay the house cleaning if I'm injured?
Did you say lawn care?
And if I can't walk my dog, they'll help me pay someone to do it for me.
Call the number on your screen to switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford and be rewarded for your experience behind the wheel.
Recover Care, auto insurance that helps take care of me. Now I've seen it all.
You won't drop me. You take care of me as well as my car, And you offer savings to switch. It's unbelievable.
If you're 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
I'm going to call.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
Call the Hartford at the number on your screen to request your free quote. 1-888-529-1797. We'll even send you this free calculator. Call 1-888-529-1797 now. Why wait?
On Newsmax TV, Dick Morris says Obama doesn't care about the border, but he does have a secret plan to keep the Democrats in power. Watch Dick Morris today on America's Forum with J.D. Hayworth. Go now to Newsmax TV. Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
I understand that Israel can't have a ceasefire in which they're not able to, that somehow the tunnels are never going to be dealt with. The tunnels have to be dealt with. We understand that. We're working at that. By the same token, the Palestinians can't have a ceasefire in which they think the status quo is going to stay, and they're not going to have the ability to be able to begin to live and breathe more freely and move within the crossings and begin to have goods and services that come in from outside. These are important considerations.
Yeah, it's a capitulation to terror is what John Kerry just described there. And joining us now to talk about this, and also Elizabeth Warren, believe it or not, no connection to capitulation to terror, is David Harsanyi, national syndicated columnist and senior editor at The Federalist. Great to see you, sir.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
All right, so, you wrote a great piece. What was John Kerry doing? Seriously, what was John Kerry doing? What on earth was he doing? First of all, what was he doing talking to Turkey and Qatar?
Well, it seems like he undercut not only Israel, but Jordan and Egypt and Saudi Arabia and all these nations that you actually hope can come together and so rarely do on anything.
And they have against Hamas, basically.
That's right, because Hamas is destabilizing not only Israel, but the border with Egypt as well. So you have Kerry sort of blowing up the entire effort for a real ceasefire that will actually stop the tunnels, what he was just talking about. What he's proposing is ridiculous. I mean, the status quo is Hamas, right? We don't want that. So Israel's trying to eliminate them.
So when he says Israel now, he's moved forward a little bit. Oh yeah, Israel will deal with the tunnels, but we have to open up. I mean, first of all, it's giving Hamas anything. It's treating them like a country. It's treating them like a country with a grievance, and they're just as legitimate as Israel in their concerns. That's mistake number one, and I want you to weigh in on that. But mistake number two also is you can't end the blockade. The blockade was instituted for a reason. Because they're smuggling in rockets and the concrete and building the tunnels. What fantasy world is he living in on both those issues?
Well, on the first point, he's giving legitimacy to a terrorist group that the United States recognizes as a terrorist group. Instead of helping,
at least in words, they do.
That's right.
Yeah.
And instead of empowering Fatah to make a deal. Now, do I love Fatah? No, but it's a lot better, right, than Hamas. Listen, Hamas won an election there. That's a fact. But afterwards, they were throwing Hamas officials off the roofs and executing them. So they've seized power in a way. And to your second point, what was your second point?
My second point was I believe that opening the blockade. Yeah. And I mean, what does he think? All of a sudden Hamas is going to be peaceful? As long as Hamas is there, they're going to smuggle in weapons and build tunnels.
Well, think about these tunnels. They're not just like dug with a little spoon underneath. They're really complex and intricate and kind of amazing. And you'd think that people who could do that could build a hospital or keep a greenhouse going or do all those other things they say they can't because of the blockade. The blockade will end when Hamas ends. There's just no other way around it. Israel cannot, people cannot live with the threat of rockets.
And Egypt doesn't want that block. Egypt doesn't open the border with Gaza either.
Right, because Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood are close, and it destabilizes their nations. That's problematic.
So where does this end? And what is the fascination with this administration and supporting all the wrong sides every single time? I mean, look what's happened now in Libya. Look what they supported. If they had their druthers, Morsi would still be in charge in Egypt, and then it would be total chaos. And of course, the caliphate being established in Iraq and Syria, and I mean, and we've fought alongside rebels who are terrorists in Al Qaeda. What is this all by accident?
I don't know. It's probably some incompetence and some on purpose, right? I think that...
What's the on purpose part?
I think that they're trying to be friends to everyone equally, and you can't do that. So they want Hamas and the Palestinians to think they have a friend in the United States and Israel to think they have a friend. Well, you can't be friends to both. You have to pick one. We used to pick Israel most of the time. Listen, there's some limitations on that relationship, and America would say, listen, you have this window to do what you have to do. But now, in essence, they're undermining Israel, and Israel had to reject a ceasefire proposal by everyone in the cabinet, not Likud, not the right wing, but also exactly the left wing.
Absolutely, and as far as being everyone's friend, and many would say they're not Israel's friend or the Jews' friend. And they're certainly not the Christians' friend anywhere. They don't even talk about what's going on with the Christians being slaughtered right now. Let's focus on Iraq and Mosul, or you want to go expand it? We could talk about country after country in the Middle East and in parts of Africa. And this administration is silent.
And basically on the left, I think it's almost... racist is a strong word, that we ignore when Christians are killed by Muslims in Africa or elsewhere. And I think it has a lot to do with who's doing the killing. Now, Israel is not targeting civilians. Hamas is putting civilians in harm's way. And civilians sometimes die in war. It's a terrible thing. But there is a clear purpose there that is a good purpose to get rid of Hamas, where it is not the case elsewhere, where we're destroying Christian culture and killing Christians.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk a little bit about Elizabeth Warren. Kind of a tough segue there, I guess. But you think she's going to run for president? When I heard her Netroots speech, all of a sudden I heard a presidential candidate speech.
She always sounds like she's running for president, but in the end I don't think she will if Hillary decides to run, because I think Hillary's infrastructure and money and all of that is too hard to overcome. Then again, I probably said the same thing in 2000.
How about a ticket? The two women on a ticket.
That might be interesting, but again, I wrote about Elizabeth Warren to say that I think she's overrated as a politician.
Yeah, I was going to ask you why. How so?
Well, I think the perception that we have of people, or the hope the progressives have on or put on her, is far exceeds her actual skill set. When she speaks, Obama, you like him or not, was charismatic and sort of transcended these issues, made progressivism sound universally important and productive, whereas Elizabeth Warren sounds like an angry union boss.
Yeah, she does sound like an angry union boss, but she would certainly, I don't think she'd have a shot in a general election, but would she have a shot at the Democratic nomination?
She might. I think it has to do with earnestness. I think that you have Hillary, who's pulling down $200K for a speech, and her populist progressive rhetoric.
That's not a bad day.
I think that's the most impressive things that she's done in her life. But I think that, and I'm impressed by that.
Chelsea's getting 75.
Yeah. I do it for far less. But she is a very rich person, and it just comes off fake, right? Yeah, and she can't pull it off. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see as we go forward. And David Harsidi, I thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks.
Okay, folks, and of course, read him among other places at the Federalist, where he is senior editor, David Harsidi. Now, when we come back, we're going to do more of the show, of course, and I have some remarks to make about Morning Joe, or as Mika mistakenly called it, Morning Jew. And then a day later, Joe Scarborough turns on Israel. What's going on here, or what's going on there? We'll talk about it. You can hear it, see it, and judge on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Smile.
No matter how well you provide for your family today, if you don't have life insurance, their future may be at risk. Think about what would happen if you were gone. Would they struggle to pay the bills and face an uncertain future? They don't have to. You can help guarantee those you love $200,000, $500,000, $750,000 or more with life insurance through AIG Direct. We'll help you get more for your money, up to 70% more. Just look, less than $14 a month buys a 40-year-old man a $250,000 term life policy. That's up to 3 times what you can get from other companies for the same price. No wonder millions of people rely on AIG companies. The call is free, the quote is free, and there's no obligation. Make the future more secure for those you love. Call now so you can sleep better at night.
For a free quote, call 1-800-558-5246 or visit AIGdirect.com.
Falls are the #1 cause of injury to senior citizens. Falling down stairs can be disastrous. Acorn Stair Lifts has a solution. Just don't fall. Sit, relax, ride with an Acorn Stair Lift, the world's leader in stair lifts. That's right. Don't let limited mobility keep you from going up and down your stairs, even outside. Call Acorn Stair Lifts now for a free information kit and no obligation quote. Now you can safely ride with your Acorn Stair Lift.
Now I don't have to worry about him climbing those stairs again.
And our Acorn Stair Lift was very affordable.
Our Acorn Stair Lift is definitely more affordable than moving.
The Acorn Stair Lift has a padded seat and backrest for maximum comfort. It easily folds up for access to the stairway. 5 safety sensors stop your Acorn Stair Lift if there's something in the way. And it even runs during power outages.
And I'm the king of my own castle again.
You'll be working directly with the world's leader in stair lifts. That's right, there's no middleman. Acorn's trained technicians professionally install your stair lift directly to the staircase, in most cases in 2 hours or less, with no need for special construction. We don't leave until you're completely comfortable using your Acorn Stair Lift.
Don't risk a serious fall down the stairs.
I was really surprised at how little they cost.
Call for your free no-obligation information kit and quote from Acorn Stair Lifts. Just don't fall. Safely ride up and down your steps.
Give your life a lift with an Acorn Stair Lift.
Call 1-800-514-1402 for your free information kit. That number again is 1-800-514-1402. Or visit our website today.
Call now.
I'm Miranda Kahn, and we begin your Newsmax Now update on Capitol Hill. That's where outgoing House Majority Leader Eric Cantor delivered his farewell address to colleagues today. The Republican leader says he's never been more concerned about the prospect for peace in the world. Cantor will return to Congress in the fall as a rank-and-file Republican congressman. Representative Kevin McCarthy will then succeed his position. A moment of peace is what Malaysia's prime minister would like right about now. Najib Razak is asking for a ceasefire between Ukrainian forces and the pro-Russian separatists around the Malaysian 17 crash site. U.S. intelligence reports claim rebels may have shot down the plane by mistake using surface-to-air missiles. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that was your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, welcome back. You know, I know Joe Scarborough. I used to fill in for Joe Scarborough when it was Scarborough Country back in 2003, if I'm not mistaken. I would fill in for him at 10 o'clock at night, 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time, then go into WABC, and at that time do my overnight show on WABC. So that was a kind of a full schedule at that point. Anyway, I like Joe Scarborough. I don't think he's the big conservative he tells us he is, and I don't think he could run seriously for president. I don't know if he has a desire to or not. He's talked about it a little bit, but I don't think he can or will. You know, he made these remarks. Well, before we get to what he said, Mika Brzezinski, whose father, I believe, is very, very, very anti-Israel. Let's put it that way. Mika Brzezinski, shortly after they did an interview with an Israeli ambassador on Morning Joe yesterday, this will be 14, okay, this is 14, then said this.
Eastern Time. Still ahead, a new health care crisis. The U.S. Surgeon General is calling for immediate action to stop the rise of skin cancer. He'll explain why the new cause for concern. Keep it right here on Morning Joe.
Keep it here on Morning Joe. Now, did she say that on purpose? Was it a joke? Did she just slip the tongue? Was it Freudian? I don't know. But you couple that with today's little episode on Morning Joe, and listen to and watch Joe Scarborough.
I'm sorry, this is asinine. This continued killing of women and children in a way that appears to be indiscriminate is asinine. It is bad Of course, it's tragic for the Palestinian people. It is bad for the Israeli people. I mean, we will rue the day that this is happening every day, and women and children are being seen, because you know what? As much as we all hate Hamas, what is going to replace Hamas is going to be much worse.
Really? It's going to be much worse than a terrorist group that charter calls for the destruction of Israel, that calls for killing Jews around the world wherever they can be found, that as we speak, there's a report right now that more of these people that Joe Scarborough would like Israel to stop attacking. There's a report that more Hamas terrorists have gone through tunnels and attacked inside Israel. But Joe Scarborough says enough. Enough. It's got to stop. Really, Joe? Really? Big supporter of Israel, huh? What are they supposed to do? What are they supposed to do with the terrorist attacks? What are they supposed to do with the rockets that continue to fire by the hundreds every single day? What would you ask them to do? Say, well, this is bad, but you know, if we continue fighting and destroy Hamas, it might be worse. So we give up. I'm sure you'd want America to surrender to Al Qaeda as well, right, Joe? Very, very, very shockingly disappointed. Shockingly. All right, folks, we'll be back with the host of the Christopher Hahn Show, Christopher Hahn. But first, Dr. Chauncey Crandall to tell you about your cholesterol.
If you have high cholesterol, you probably think that taking a statin drug is the best way to lower it. After all, why wouldn't you? Statins are among the most prescribed drugs in the world. But although they are great medications to those who truly need them, other people can lower their cholesterol just by adding certain foods to their diet. Here are the 3 cholesterol-lowering foods that you'll find at your supermarket. Number 1 is oatmeal. Oatmeal is a potent cholesterol-lowering food because oats are a soluble fiber. This means that they absorb the excess cholesterol in your digestive system and carry it out of your body. In addition, oatmeal also helps prevent diabetes and cancer as well. In fact, research shows that eating oatmeal on a regular basis can be as effective as taking a statin. Second, choose salmon over beef and you'll be replacing a food packed with cholesterol-raising saturated fat with one rich in monounsaturated fat. This is the type of good fat that makes salmon taste fattening, but it's not. Salmon is also packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which lower triglycerides, another dangerous blood fat. Third, if it's mid-afternoon and you're craving a snack, grab a handful of almonds. Eating almonds every day lowers your bad LDL cholesterol by about 9%. Almonds are also packed with other vitamins as well, but the best thing about almonds is that they don't taste like a health food. Almonds contain no cholesterol and are also packed with healthy monounsaturated oils. Since most of you are already reading my book, The Simple Heart Cure, I want you to go to chapter 11, in which I tell you about foods that can help you lower your cholesterol. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thanks for watching this Health Minute. I'll see you next time.
Get your copy of Dr. Crandall's best-selling book, The Simple Heart Cure, for just $4.95 with his special offer. Go to www.simpleheartbook.com to get your copy today. That's simpleheartbook.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. Obamacare isn't working for all Americans. Let's stop, take a deep breath, and recognize it's seriously flawed. Let's put patients first by focusing on free market solutions Americans can be proud of. America is blessed with a creative spirit that has conquered diseases, ended epidemics, and given millions of people the opportunity to live longer, healthier lives. We can once again have the greatest healthcare system on earth if Washington gets out of the way. If you want to hold Washington accountable and truly save American healthcare, join me and sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our healthcare. Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website and sign the petition today.
Let's work together and save American healthcare, sign the petition, and unleash the great American spirit again.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When demand is high, so is opportunity. There is only so much silver in the world, and over half of all silver produced each year is used in industries that make products like cell phones, cars, and computers. This industrial demand is one reason silver has performed so well, and why some analysts are predicting a future surge in silver demand. Since silver is the lowest priced precious metal, shouldn't you see how silver can help diversify your portfolio? Goldline has been helping people acquire precious metals like gold and silver for over 50 years. Getting started is easy. Just call the number on your screen to receive our free investor kit. Shipping is free. You pay the same price using cash or credit card. And qualifying orders are eligible for Goldline's Price Guarantee Program. Call now to get started, because greater silver demand creates greater opportunities.
Hi, I'm Jean, and this is my one and only Henry. We just love scouring flea markets for special treasures. But with my type 2 diabetes, we now spend all the time at the pharmacy. With Medcare, I don't have to. They deliver everything I need right to my door with free shipping. Plus, Medcare takes private policies, Medicaid, even my Medicare. Sleep apnea machines, nebulizers. Medcare has all the finest medical supplies. The best part, Medcare saves us money. Medcare allows us the time to do the things we love. Medcare, we deliver a better life.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
So it's not clear, how it is that Republicans didn't seem to mind when President Bush took more executive actions than I did. Maybe it's just me they don't like. I don't know. Maybe there's some principle out there that I haven't discerned, that I haven't figured out. You hear some of them. Well, I sue them, impeach them. Really? Really? For what? You're going to sue me for doing my job?
All right, folks, there you go. The president doing what apparently he does best, I guess, which is acting unpresidential and revving up a crowd. Joining us now is Christopher Hahn, host of The Christopher Hahn Show, former senior aide to Senator Charles Schumer. Good to see you.
Nice to see you, too.
All right. It's really, that was from a few days ago.
Yeah.
We did it again yesterday. Stop the hate. Stop the hate. Was he looking in the mirror when he said stop the hate? Isn't this old and tired and pathetic for a president of the United States to go from stop to stop to stop with, they don't like me, they're suing me. I mean, come on, be a president for crying out loud.
I find comedy in everything, you know that, Steve. And I think truth is the best form of comedy. I think the president's lines were dead on. And especially when you talk about the GOP, who's so anti-litigation. They don't want you to be able to sue if your doctor leaves medical supplies in you, but they want to sue the president for doing things every other president has ever done. They're very litigious. I'm surprised.
Okay, here's the deal.
I want tort reform, and I want to start with the House of Representatives. How about that?
Okay. That, of course, is turning the whole issue around. First of all, this is not, as the president falsely indicated, and the liberal media and the Democrats love to falsely indicate, a numbers game and a contest between who has signed more executive orders. This is about what the president has done. The president has selectively enforced, not enforced, and changed standing law. For instance, and the lawsuit unfortunately focuses only on one of those instances. I think there's a lot that they could do, but to take a law and say the law says it's going to start on such and such a date.
Right.
The law says this one and that one is going to have to do it, and say, oh no, you know what? I'm going to give them an exemption, not you. I'm going to change this date to that date. You can't change the law without Congress.
You know, I worked in the United States Senate during the Medicare Part D fiasco during the Bush administration, and one of the ways Bush dealt with that was to delay the requirements for to extend the deadline to sign on. He unilaterally changed the law, and the Republicans did not say a word. Neither did the Democrats either, because the president can enforce the laws. He has some latitude to enforce the law under the Constitution. That's what the court's going to say if they even take this case up, which they won't. I don't think John Boehner has standing because he wasn't damaged.
I think we've all been damaged by Obamacare. But you could go to the president's selective enforcement of the immigration laws, telling ICE, not to do this, not to do that, changing deportation. The work provision of the Welfare Reform Act signed under Bill Clinton, they've relaxed that provision. You just can't go and take laws that you don't like or laws that you do like and say, I'm going to enforce it. I'm not going to enforce this one. You're the president. You want to change the law, you go to Congress.
Again, the president has broad latitude to enforce the laws as he sees fit. That's why he's elected. Now, a police officer or somebody like that doesn't have as much latitude, but an elected president who's charged or an elected executive of any level of government has broad latitude to enforce the law. How does he have latitude
to enforce the laws? You mean if he doesn't like it, he doesn't have to?
No, not at all.
Well, that's what he's doing
I think that he's got to do it in a way that is going to be consistent with our policies and which is going to do as least harm at the moment as possible. If there's an easier way to do it, if you have to ease into it, you have to extend deadlines. That's been allowed for generations in this country. I don't know why Republicans feel they need to sue now. Look, Boehner's suing because he doesn't want to impeach the president. He's trying to appease the part of his party that wants to impeach the president. This is his compromise. This is his Solomon moment. He's trying to split the baby or split the Obama, if you will. But he's not getting that satiation that he was craving out of those rabid parts of his party. They still want to impeach the president. And if they do that, look, that's okay. I'm a Democrat. I'll do great.
I know Sheila Jackson Lee, who made a fool of herself again on the floor of the House yesterday, saying, we didn't impeach Bush, but meanwhile, she signed on to co-sponsor the bill from Kucinich to impeach Bush. So, they're so full of it on the left, and they'd love to see impeachment go forward, and so would you, and so would Obama.
I don't want to see impeachment go forward.
Have you ever heard a president, this is how pathetic it is, have you ever heard a president going around saying, they want to impeach me, and his spokespeople saying they're going to impeach him, they want to impeach him. They're fundraising off of this. It's all a bunch of nonsense.
Look, everybody's fundraising off of this, right? The right and the left.
No. You alluded earlier to the rabid group of people in the Congress who want him impeached. What, 4 or 5 have gone on record as saying impeach the president? Where's the leaders or anybody of significance elected on the Republican side that says impeach the president? You're making it up.
They are fundraising on the president's.
Not impeaching him.
There's one former Republican elected official who ran for vice president. We won't name her now. She's starting an entire television network on impeaching the president.
Well, I don't know that she's starting on impeaching the president. She's starting it on someone's hiring her and she's going to make money. That's capitalism.
Who's watching that? They should be watching
I don't know that it started yet.
I don't even think anybody's going to watch it.
You say they should give it to me?
What are they going to do? What program is she going to do? Let's be honest, Steve. At least you give people a product. I don't agree with you, but at least Newsmax is putting product out there. What is she going to say?
Well, you know what? People are going to have to pay $10 a month. If they don't, she won't last. If they do, she'll get rich.
Is $9 a month. Yes. And you couldn't watch Netflix. If you lived 1,000 years, you wouldn't watch all the content. I'm just saying.
All right, I'm not here to discuss.
What is she going to babble about for $10 a month? I'm buying it because just for material. For me, I'm a comedian. It's worth it. But I don't know how the general public's going to react.
Now, what about this? It seems like more than a threat. Seems like an eventuality that the president's got the pen again, and because evil Congress won't act. And by the way, there were 300+ bills that the House has passed that have nothing to do with the Affordable Care Act that Harry Reid will not bring to the Senate for a vote. So when, hey, Congress won't do anything, they've done it. Now Harry Reid has to do it. But that aside, this what I think is more than a threat to grant blanket amnesty to 5 to 6 million illegals in this country. When he does that, you don't think this country is going to be in an uproar? You think the majority of Americans are going to say, good you go, Barack, that's great.
I've been listening to you for years, Steve. You have been a big admirer of Ronald Reagan. Don't you want President Obama to be more like Ronald Reagan and do exactly what Ronald Reagan did? I know I do.
Ronald Reagan did not do what Obama is about to do.
Blanket amnesty for 3 million people. With inflation, 5 million seems right to me.
We are living in a different time. First of all, the African-American community will suffer the most, and the African-American community, many in there, will tell you they're fed up with this. They're fed up with hearing about the kids coming in and $4 billion for them. They're saying, what about us? What about our kids being slaughtered in Chicago and elsewhere? What about the money we need? What about the unemployment rate being twice what it is for whites? And now you're going to bring 6 million people into it and keep bringing kids and others in from other countries? What about us?
Look, the economics is not going to change whether they're legal or not. What's going to change is they will pay taxes always. if they are legal. People are going to come to this country and they're going to work. We can't stop that. There's a market for it. The market is driving that part of it.
You're
talking about
you
just made an argument, a very good one, about the economics to lower income families in America. It's a good argument. The problem is that amnesty has nothing to do with that market. That market's already exists. There's 6 million people working in this country right now.
It's going to reflect very bad on the president and his concern for people in this country who can't get jobs. You say you're not going to stop people from coming here looking for jobs. There are no jobs.
On some things, I'm libertarian. I think when people are doing things anyway and we know they're doing it and it doesn't necessarily hurt anyone, we should just legalize it like marijuana. Okay, people do it, we should tax it. Why are we letting other people make money?
Because if you look to Colorado and Washington State, there's already an increase in the number of deaths, traffic deaths linked to marijuana.
I highly doubt that.
That's absolutely true.
Wait. Look, you and I on January 1, we'll go through the statistics, okay, and we'll
talk
about it.
It's absolutely true. It's a gateway drug. It's a mind-altering substance, and you want to make money off it.
I've said this to you before. I know potheads and I know alcoholics. When I have to choose who I want to spend time with, I'd much rather spend time with the potheads. They are not getting in their car. Trust me.
Oh, they are.
And if they are, they're driving about 5 miles an hour down the street. Let's be honest.
That's an unfortunate myth. All right. Why is it that Democrats in poll after poll support Israel much less than Republicans and independents? The latest Pew poll shows that overall 40% blame Hamas, 19% blame Israel. But among Democrats, 29 blame Hamas, 26 blame Israel. What the heck's wrong with Democrats?
You're talking about 11%. Now, I'm a Democrat in New York, and I am very pro-Israel. You know that about me. I work for Senator Schumer, who's probably one of the biggest supporters of Israel of any party anywhere in the world, I would say.
I don't hear him trashing Kerry like he should.
We stand behind Israel. We believe in their right to defend themselves, and I can't address that poll. It's a very small.
No, but there's been other polls like it. Very small. What? It's Pew. What?
It's a small percentage. You're talking about 11 points. You know, it is what it is.
But I'm talking about among Democrats, they're almost evenly divided in blame.
But it's 29-28. So that means there's 60% that are saying something else.
Yeah. But the whole thing is 40 overall blame Hamas and 19 overall blame Israel. Here it's a 2-point differential.
Okay, but you know, I've got a lot of statistics training. So there's 60% in that poll that do not give Israel the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to bore you.
We gotta go. No, I won't never boring. Never boring. All right, Christopher Hahn, host of the Christopher Hahn Show. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you coming in. All right, folks. So when we come back, you know it, you love it, you got to have it. It's Give Me 5, and it's coming your way right here on the Steve Malzberg Show, only on Newsmax Television. Don't you go away.
This will hit Americans harder than anything since the Great Depression. Over the past 26 years, our research firm has guided over 1 million investors. We predicted 5 major events over the past decade. In 2002, we advised our clients to buy gold-related investments when gold traded under $300 an ounce. In 2006, we begged investors to get out of the housing market before it plunged. We were among the first to predict the recession of 2007. We predicted the stock market crash of 2008. Finally, we turned bullish on stocks in 2009 and drove the Dow from 6,440 to over 16,000, a gain of over 10,000 points. Our first 5 predictions have come true. Now we're issuing critical warning number 6. Most people won't like what we have to say. They'll find it hard to believe until they see all the facts we present them online at criticalwarning6.com. Go to criticalwarning6.com now. criticalwarning6.com.
How long have you had your car insurance?
How long have I had my car insurance? I don't know, 8, 10 years?
I couldn't tell you, but things were a lot less expensive back then.
If you're 50 or over, you should take a new look at your auto insurance. You may be overpaying.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Old policy, old rates.
And thanks to your experience behind the wheel, you might save $404 by switching to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. Plus, you'll get benefits that reward your driving record, like our promise that you won't be dropped.
Wait, you won't drop me? Seriously?
That's right, you won't be dropped. And if you know anyone who's been dropped by their insurance company, you know that's a hassle you don't need.
Especially these days.
Plus, you'll get Recover Care, which helps pay for everyday needs like house cleaning, lawn care, and pet services if you're injured in an accident.
So my auto insurance is going to help pay the house cleaning if I'm injured?
Did you say lawn care?
And if I can't walk my dog, they'll help me pay someone to do it for me.
Call the number on your screen to switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford and be rewarded for your experience behind the wheel.
Recover Care, auto insurance that helps take care of me. Now I've seen it all.
You won't drop me, you take care of me as well as my car, and you offer savings to switch. It's unbelievable.
If you're 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
I'm gonna call.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
Call the Hartford at the number on your screen to request your free quote. 1-888-529-1797. We'll even send you this free calculator. Call 1-888-529-1797 now. Why wait?
The first time I heard the word grandma, what? At my age? No way. But then you hold them in your arms, oh, and everything changes. This is my first grandchild, Stephen, and I want to be a part of his life for a long, long time. But you can't take care of your family until you take care of yourself.
And now with Fast 5 from Nutrisystem, you can lose weight fast. Lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
Nutrisystem helps me do just that. I lost 50 pounds, and I feel great.
Order your 28-day My Weight plan right now, and we'll rush you the Fast 5 free. You'll get 1 week of fantastic energizing shakes to rev your metabolism, 1 week of delicious Craving Crusher shakes to crush those cravings, plus 1 week of meals absolutely free.
Grandma? Yeah, I can own that. I'm a grandma. Don't wait. Call Nutrisystem today.
Start losing weight today.
Call now, 877-316-SIZE, and lose your first 5 pounds free.
My colleagues to oppose this resolution, for it is in fact a veiled attempt for impeachment, and it undermines the law that allows a president to do his job. A historical fact that President Bush pushed this nation into a war. It had little to do with apprehending terrorists. We did not seek an impeachment of President Bush because as an executive he had his authority. President Obama has the authority.
All right, that's Sheila Jackson Lee. Welcome to Give Me 5 on the floor of the House yesterday prior to the vote authorizing the lawsuit against the President of the United States. Now, Sheila Jackson Lee says it's all a ruse, a prelude, if you will, to impeaching the President, and she's against it, and she was against impeaching George W. Bush. One problem, Congresswoman. In 2008, there was a bill sponsored by then Congressman Dennis Kucinich. It was called Impeaching George W. Bush, President of the United States, of High Crimes and Misdemeanors. The bill was co-sponsored by 11 Democrats, including, according to our friends at Media Research Institute, Sheila Jackson Lee. How soon? I guess she just forgot. You know, many people sponsor bills, co-sponsor bills to impeach the president, then they just forget about it. It slips their mind. But she wasn't alone in this impeachment talk from females on the Democratic side. Watch.
Let us recognize for us what this is. Serious. Serious. On a path to nowhere, or maybe, among some of your ranks, a path to impeachment.
There's that I word again. Oh, yeah. The Democrats love to talk about impeachment. They can't stop themselves. And neither could Nancy Pelosi.
But if we just want to talk about the lawsuit, it behooves the Speaker of the House to say impeachment is off the table. I hope we can hear that soon. And then we'll see what the merits of this case are. It have no standing. It has no merits. It has a political basis, and let the American people judge it for what it is.
I guess you have to pass it before you can find out what it is. Ha ha! Where have we heard that before? And one more from the minority leader of the House of Representatives.
If you don't want people to use the word impeachment, as your people have done, then tell them impeachment is off the table. That's what I had to do. That's what this speaker should do.
All right. Nancy, did I ever applaud you for getting impeachment off the table of George W. Bush? I'm applauding you right now. Long overdue, Ms. Minority Leader. Okay. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was not to be outdone. Ladies and gentlemen, following Sheila Jackson Lee, following Nancy Pelosi, we bring you the story of impeachment.
It's quite possible this lawsuit against the President of the United States for doing his job is a prelude to the potential for impeachment. The third highest ranking Republican in the House of Representatives refused to take it off the table this past Sunday when directly asked on Fox News whether or not he would support impeachment and whether they will pursue it. No less than 5 to 6, I probably lost count how many Republicans in Congress have said that they should pursue impeaching President
Obama. She lost count? 5 to 6? She lost count. Okay. Oh, my goodness gracious. The one and only Debbie Wasserman Schultz. But she wasn't finished. She was asked, actually, if the Democrats are overreaching, sending out fundraising letters saying, oh, they're going to impeach the president. We have to stop. We have to mobilize. Send us money. And so are you overreaching, Debbie Wasserman Schultz?
So not only are we not overreaching, we are making sure that the American people understand exactly where the Republicans who are running the House of Representatives' priorities are. They are certainly not where Americans' priorities are, and they certainly don't have Americans' back.
What about the 300-plus bills that your House of Representatives, I say your house because you're in it, passed regarding jobs, regarding a plethora of different, a wide variety of different issues that Harry Reid will not even bring to the floor of the Senate for consideration? What about those? What about those? I guess they don't count, right? I guess they don't count because it's not immigration reform. What can I tell you? Stay tuned for your Newsmax Now update on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Mary had LifeLock's bank account alerts, she may have been notified in time to help stop the damage. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, helping protect you before damage can be done to your identity. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, helping guard your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to help protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose. When you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to help keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free. And get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
Congressional leaders hoping to start their 5-week recess tomorrow will have to wait a little longer. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that story tops your Newsmax Now update. Reports say the House will not be voting on John Boehner's revised immigration bill, which means it's back to the drawing board, and vacation plans, well, let's just say they've been postponed. Meanwhile, reports suggest some 60,000 illegal immigrants have flooded the U.S.-Mexican border since October, and now some Democrats are attacking the GOP's leadership skills.
And one thing we can't do is waste the time of the American people and the Congress of the United States and the cost to the taxpayer of the time that Congress is in session doing nothing.
And House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi also used this as an opportunity to bash Republicans over their decision to sue President Barack Obama.
They didn't have money to feed the children, help the American people, but they want a blank check to sue the president. They've lost moral standing in what's happening on the border.
President Obama also reacted to the lawsuit.
What they have a vote on? They got together in the House of Representatives, the Republicans, and voted to sue me for taking the actions that we are doing to help families.
But House Speaker John Boehner says it's not his fault things aren't getting done.
Listen, there are 352 bills passed by the House sitting in the United States Senate. Go take your complaint to Harry Reid.
And we'll, of course, keep an eye on what steps congressional leaders take next, and we'll keep you updated. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that's your Newsmax Now update. Back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, final hour of the Thursday edition. Steve Forbes, chairman and editor-in-chief of Forbes Media and former GOP presidential candidate, will be here. Talk about the border crisis, Putin, and his new book, Money, How the Destruction of the Dollar Threatens the Global Economy and What We Can Do About It. John Philip Sousa IV, that's right. He's co-founder and chairman of the National Draft Ben Carson for President Committee. We spoke to him the other day. We'll bring that to you today. Then Dr. Andrew Bostom, professor of medicine at Brown University and author. He's going to show us a video from Gaza, and it's a sermon from Hamas TV. What it means, what the significance is of it, and more. All that, you got your Gimme 5 right here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Don't go away.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back. Before we get to Steve Forbes and talk some economy, there's a story breaking on FoxNews.com. Former President Bill Clinton, the day before the 9/11 attacks, is heard on a tape, which before now has not been heard and not been released. But a businessman who had access to this 13-year-old recording and handed it over to Sky News Australia, which broadcasted in a report on Monday. And he's quoted, he says in this tape, this is Bill Clinton, the day before 9/11, I'm just saying, you know, if I were Osama bin Laden, he's a very smart guy. I've spent a lot of time thinking about him. I nearly got him once. Then he says, I nearly got him, and I could have killed him. But I would have to destroy a little town called Kandahar in Afghanistan and kill 300 innocent women and children, and then I would have been no better than him, and so I didn't do it. And so I didn't do it. Now, this was pre-9/11, but Osama bin Laden and who he was and what he had been responsible for was well documented. I'm sorry. Obviously, it's hindsight, and that trigger should have been pulled. We know that trigger should have been pulled. Would it have prevented the attack scheduled for the for 9/11? I don't know. I don't know when he had him in his sights and when he could have gotten him. We'll talk more about this tomorrow and later, I'm sure. But right now, Steve Forbes joins us. Steve, how are you, sir?
Good to be with you, Steve. How are you?
It's always great to talk to you. All right, so much to get to, and of course, your new book, Money: How the Destruction of the Dollar Threatens the Global Economy and What We Can Do About It. Today, of course, the market with a bit of a hit because of, I think it's because of the default in Argentina. It is a global economy, and you know, we're so interconnected that when something goes wrong in another country, in another part of the world, still it affects us.
It does indeed, and that's one reason why we've got to get money right. Argentina hasn't done it in decades, and we see where that leads. And you can get things right on taxes, you can get it right on regulations and spending, but if you don't get the money part right, it's going to undermine your economy, and you're going to have subpar growth. It's through buying and selling with each other that we are able to get a higher standard of living. And if the money's not trustworthy, then that means we don't do as much as we could otherwise.
And I want to talk, you know, you've been pitching the gold standard for so long. I do want to get to that in a second, but let me ask you about, you brought up the growth, the GDP, 4% second quarter, coming off of the horrific number prior to that. Is that encouraging? Is that just a number that doesn't mean much?
Well, it's nice to have the snapback, but it's still a very punk recovery. And I'm not sure in the latter part of this year we're going to get much above or even close to 3% real growth. So this still ranks as the worst recovery in American history from a sharp downturn. It's like a baseball player who was hitting 150. Now he's got it up to 220 or 230. Very nice, but it ain't going to get you to the World Series.
No, and I would assume you would say the same about the jobs numbers, which, you know, even if on Friday they are, you know, 200, 220, 230, still in all, that's not what we need.
And we're not getting the kind of increases in pay and productivity that would make this economy hum again. And as you point out, the labor participation rate is still at the levels of the late 70s, early 1980s, 30 years.
Which is not good at all. All right, so talk about, as you do in the book, you know, the dollar and how it does threaten the global economy, and what it would mean, and put it, and you just do such a good job of this, put it in terms that you know, the people watching at home who maybe don't have the financial background that certainly you don't, that you do, and I don't either, you know, could understand what it means to go back to the gold standard.
All it would mean is that the dollar would have a stable value, which it had for 180 years, from the time of George Washington through the early 1970s. It's similar to having a fixed number of minutes in an hour. Imagine what life would be like if the Federal Reserve, our central bank, did to clocks what it does to the dollar. You have 60 minutes an hour one day, 42 minutes the next, 74 the day after. Life would be chaotic. Imagine baking a cake. It says bake the batter 40 minutes. Now, is that nominal minutes, an inflation-adjusted minute, New York minute, a Mexican minute? So a stable dollar just makes it easier to invest, easier to do transactions with each other. But when the government constantly changes the value of the dollar, makes it suspect, then you have arbitrary winners and losers, which also undermines social trust.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to go down, Steve, if I can, to the border crisis, which, you know, is off the front pages and off the radar for the most part because of what's going on first with Putin and now, of course, in the Middle East. And let's talk about the repercussions. You know, the media says that the liberal media is saying, oh, you know, they're making villains out of these kids. By the way, most of them are 16 or 17. They're not little kids. They're being sent all over the country. 99% of them, or at least 90%, are never going to show up for a hearing. They're going to disappear. You combine that with the threat of Obama's pen, which could grant, you know, in effect, amnesty to 5 or 6 million people. Look at it from an economic standpoint. What would that mean for the economy of the United States if these border kids stay and keep coming and Obama signs his executive order?
Well, it would put a drain on the economy. This is not a situation where you have legal immigrants who bring something in, the desire to get ahead. Most of these kids are going to be working in the underground economy, off the books economy, which is not good. And also, in a larger sense, it gives people the feeling, like the cheap dollar, that things are out of control. Even if you're 16, it's not an easy thing to hike from Guatemala to Texas or Arizona. And I think part of it is organized, and the impression is out there that come on in, the coming is good. And so the thing feeds on itself, and the fact that the president, who loves photo ops, wouldn't go down to the border on this one gives people the feeling he really just doesn't care, and that's a demoralizer.
Now let's go back to the global economy and the world. Yeah, I think it was Larry Kudlow who wrote a piece. I had him on yesterday, talking about how Obama is undoing the Reagan belief that a strong U.S. economy is vital to world security, and you know, neither one is working right now.
No, and any time the United States is weak, as happened in the 1930s during the Depression, the 1970s, a terrible malaise decade, high inflation, the world starts to unravel. A strong U.S. is critical, and when Reagan came in and made the needed reforms, and America once again was seen as an innovative, fast-growing nation, we won the Cold War. The world became a much safer place. But when people perceive weakness and the bad actors start to misbehave, we see it with Putin most notably.
Yeah, well, I want to ask you about the president's handling or non-handling of Putin. You know, what really struck me, and I think this sums it all up almost, when he came out to the lawn the other day with the helicopter in the backdrop, and when answering questions at the end of his little sanctions speech, said, "No, this is not another Cold War." And then he was asked, "Are we going to give weapons to the Ukrainians who have been begging, and all we're giving them is rations, MREs?" And he said, no, he said they have enough weapons, and you know, they have more weapons than the rebels. The point is not to increase the bloodshed. And I said, I said, oh my God, that's his whole philosophy in a nutshell.
Yeah, the bad guys can, it's like gun control. The bad guys can get the guns, and the law abiders have to hope for the best.
Great analogy, yeah.
And so sending Happy Meals to Ukraine isn't going to cut it, and that's why if we sent weapons, they would be glad to do the job, but they have to have the tools to do it, and we won't let them have the tools needed.
Yeah, and you see Putin stopping or just eventually going more and more into Ukraine?
I'm not sure he's thought the thing through. He's an opportunist, and I think he's just going to push it as much as he can. And he will probably get more aggressive. His economy's not in great shape, so he's got to keep people diverted. And it's amazing the propaganda machine he's unleashed in Russia. It's like Cold War days. The U.S. is behind everything, evil, malignant country, and people don't get the alternative.
Yeah, we hijacked that plane.
Bad stuff, and I worry. What I really worry about is if he starts to make a play on the western Ukraine and starts to make a play on the Baltic states like Estonia.
Steve, one final one. Are you behind Boehner's lawsuit that passed in the House, with the support for which passed in the House yesterday?
Absolutely. We have to come up with remedies to a president who won't enforce the law, who arbitrarily changes the law, and the president and the executive branch need to be reminded. This is the United States, not Venezuela.
And Bill Kristol said he's not so sure, although he's against impeachment, he's not so sure it's such a bad thing for Republicans to say the word that they have to run and hide from it. Is that something that should be kept out there as a possibility to also keep a president, honest?
I think there you have to prepare public opinion, and that's where I think the lawsuit is good. It starts to get people used to the idea that this president has been lawless. We know it. We follow things closely, but most people are trying to be out there working, doing a living. And so this is part of the process. This president is acting in an unconstitutional manner. He's out of control in many areas, and this will start the education process, and if further measures are needed, they will be taken, including what I've recommended, and that is a big defunding of the IRS.
Yeah.
Start taking the money away.
That would be wonderful. You going to run for president again?
I'm an agitator now.
Steve, thank you so much. The book Money, How the Destruction of the Dollar Threatens the Global Economy and What We Can Do About It. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
My pleasure. All right, folks, Steve Forbes. When we come back, John Philip Sousa IV and who he's supporting for the presidency in 2016. Don't go away.
I met St. Jude because I had a cancer inside of me. They diagnosed me with a brain tumor. You have to be strong and don't give up. Gratitude is everything. You have to fight.
Imagine your doctor tells you your child has cancer with only months to live. Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you turn to? Fortunately, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is fighting every day to save children's lives. And with a gift of just $19 a month, you can join the fight.
This is my kid that they're giving back to me. I am so grateful.
At St. Jude, no family ever receives a bill. In fact, no family pays St. Jude for anything. That's why your gift of $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, is so important.
When I thought that I might lose my son, they gave me hope.
You are not only saving a child's life, you're breathing life back into that family.
If I hadn't come here, I wouldn't have my son.
St. Jude's life-saving research and treatment is shared freely with hospitals around the world.
St. Jude gives you hope and happiness. They're helping us live. Maybe in the future, kids won't have to go through this. We'll find a cure and it'll all be over.
Please, call and become a St. Jude Partner in Hope right now.
On Newsmax TV, Dick Morris says Obama doesn't care about the border, but he does have a secret plan to keep the Democrats in power. Watch Dick Morris today on America's Forum with J.D. Hayworth. Go now to Newsmax TV. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Last time we talked, you said it would be up to God, and even if God decided you should run, you wouldn't want to run. So tell me where you are.
Well, I'm listening. I'm in the listening process.
So would you say that's a step closer than you were from the last time we talked?
It is a step closer. I have to consider what's going on, and I have to consider the enormous crowds that I encounter every place I go and the level of enthusiasm and what I'm hearing. But I also have to see what happens in November. Is our nation going to indicate that they, in fact, are waking up and that they are ready to move forward again? Or are we going to continue this long downward slide into a fundamental change?
All right, folks, that was my interview, my news-making interview with Dr. Ben Carson earlier in the week. Joining us now is the co-founder and chairman of the National Draft Ben Carson for President Committee and the great-grandson of John Philip Sousa the Fourth. Hello, sir.
Steve, how are you?
You know, I really want to spend the interview talking about what it's like to be the John Philip Sousa IV, the great-grandson of John Philip Sousa. But if we have time, we'll get to that, or we'll talk to you another time about that. It is a thrill for me to talk to you. But I'm amazed when I read the numbers at the scope of your undertaking and the success of your National Draft Ben Carson for President Committee.
It's astonishing, Steve, to think that we've been doing this for less than a year, that we've raised over $7 million, that we are within 12 hours of getting our 100,000th individual donor, and we have 17,000 volunteers. It's unprecedented.
It is. Now, what's your reason for loving Ben Carson enough to want him to be president? What do you see in him?
Well, it starts with love of country. It continues with, I think we're in a real trouble, and who can fix it? And we believe very strongly that Dr. Carson is either the only person or one of the very few people who can really turn America around and make us the country of exceptionalism again, which we are no longer. I mean, it's sad to say, I hate to say it, but that's where we are.
What differentiates himself? Why do you say that he's one of the few who can do that? What qualities does he have? What do you see in him that possibly you don't see in others on the Republican side?
He's not a politician. Let's start there. He's incredibly bright, and certainly there's lots of bright people around. But Steve, think about the process one would go through to figure out how to separate conjoined twins so that both halves live. The arteries, the nerves, the brains, everything that's involved with that. And Dr. Carson did that. And if he can do that, Steve, he can fix our immigration problem. He can fix the economy. He's a smart guy. He uses common sense. He relies on the Constitution. And that's what we need today.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about his brilliance. And don't get me wrong, I've spoken to him many, many times. I've met him several times, and I'm a big fan of his, and I think he would do very, very well. But I do, playing half devil's advocate here with you. How do you think the media would treat him based on how the media has treated him? Whenever he opens his mouth, they're looking for his foot to go in it, whether it goes in it or even a little bit or not at all.
Well, I mean, almost without exception, he's kept his foot out of his mouth. He's kept both feet out of his mouth.
But maybe it was a poor choice of words on my part. When he makes his analogies and then goes on to explain them, still they just take the analogy, which sometimes they're headline worthy, and they distort it. Or God is going to tell me if I should run, but then he goes on to explain it, but they just go with the headline that makes him look, like in the minds of some kooky. So what I'm saying is, they're not cutting him the slack. They cut Barack Obama for being black. They're attacking him because he's a conservative black.
Of course. He's going to be the Uncle Tom. He's going to be the traitor. He's going to be called all kinds of names that have absolutely no bearing whatsoever on who and what this gentleman is. But that's the media. If you're a conservative, you come to expect it, and you build it into your plan, and it's sadly part of everyday life.
John, have you met with Ben Carson?
I have met Ben Carson. Yes, I have.
And I mean, he's well aware of your undertaking, correct?
Oh yes, very much so.
When you talk with him, what impression do you get as far as the fire in the belly aspect of running for president, which you really have to have if you're going to go through with it?
Well, I need to be very clear on one point, Steve, and that is we are a super PAC, and as such, we're not allowed to communicate with Dr. Carson about the campaign in any way, shape, or form.
Gotcha.
So all we can do from our side of the table, Steve, is listen to what he says, watch how he acts, and watch what he does.
And when you do that, do you see the fire in the belly at this point?
When we started this, there was a little tiny flame like on a birthday candle, and now it's a raging bonfire. And if I were a gambling man and you said, is Carson going to run, I wouldn't bet the whole farm, but I'd sure bet the barn at this point.
Very interesting. John, it's a pleasure to talk to you. In the less than a minute we have left, what's the best part about being the great-grandson of John Philip Sousa?
Just really proud to be related to such a important and historic American.
All right, we will expand upon that at a future time, I promise you. I thank you for joining us, and Ben Carson, he's lucky to have you in his corner.
You're very kind, Steve. Thanks for the time.
My pleasure. And how can folks get a hold of you if they want to contribute or join?
RunBenRun.org.
Okay.
RunBenRun.org.
I didn't want to leave that out. RunBenRun.org. Okay, John, thank you very much. And folks, we'll be back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show after the break. But first, I want you to stay tuned for your Newsmax Now update.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. Obamacare isn't working for all Americans. Let's stop, take a deep breath, and recognize it's seriously flawed. Let's put patients first by focusing on free market solutions Americans can be proud of. America is blessed with a creative spirit that has conquered diseases, ended epidemics, and given millions of people the opportunity to live longer, healthier lives. We can once again have the greatest healthcare system on earth if Washington gets out of the way. If you want to hold Washington accountable and truly save American healthcare, join me and sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our healthcare. Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website and sign the petition today.
Let's work together and save American healthcare, sign the petition, and unleash the great American spirit again.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising. Tired of faded bumpers, foggy headlights, weathered, sun-damaged vehicles? You've spent time and money applying product again and again to hide those embarrassing parts on your car, only to have that work fade away. Not anymore. Introducing Wipe New, the world's longest-lasting solution for restoring and protecting your vehicle. And we guarantee it to last for years. Just apply Wipe New once. It's quick and easy to do. Just one swipe and watch your car turn showroom new.
I've been a professional auto detailer for 30 years. Now I restore faded plastic rather than just clean it. And I do it in no time at all. I apply Wipe New to bumpers, side panels, even dashes and interior plastic. Simply apply it once and it lasts for years. Wipe New is the most revolutionary car care product that I've used in my entire detailing career.
We applied Wipe New to the driver's side of this vehicle. We then sent this car through over 100 powerful car washes. Wipe New never faded or washed away, proving that the results will last for years of real-world environmental exposure.
I don't think I've ever seen it, Brandon. I got it about 2 years old, and I've never seen it shine like this.
And we guarantee it to last for years. Use it on bumpers, decorative outside panels, side view mirrors, even vinyl or leather car seats for a protected showroom new shine. Don't spend a fortune on temporary fixes. Order the revolutionary Wipe New for only $19.99. But wait, order now and we'll double the size. That's enough for 2 cars. There's still more. Order now and get the Pro Detailing Kit with the headlight applicator bonus. Just pay separate shipping and processing. That's right, Wipe New restores your headlights too. Order now and get it all, plus a 2-year guarantee. A $50 value for only $19.99. Order now.
To get your Wipe New detailing kit, call 1-800-408-5381. That's 1-800-408-5381. Wipe New comes with a 2-year money-back guarantee, so call 1-800-408-5381 today.
As congressional leaders prepare to debate on an immigration bill, actually they're debating right now on an immigration bill, Eric Cantor says goodbye to his colleagues as House Majority Leader. He also shared some of his concerns. I'm Miranda Kahn, and that story tops your Newsmax Now update.
Yet never before have I been more worried about the prospects of that peace due to our diminished engagement on the world stage.
And Cantor isn't the only person worried about America's role on foreign affairs. Congressman Jeff Miller was on America's Forum with J.D. Hayworth and had this to say about Secretary of State John Kerry's leadership.
I was shocked that they put him in the job in the first place. It's time for him to go. Hillary Clinton didn't do anything but rack up a bunch of miles. Secretary Kerry has done less than she did.
I'm Miranda Kahn, and that was your Newsmax Now update. Let's head back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back. A little baseball talk now. Derek Jeter, Yankee shortstop, Yankee captain. Of course, this is his final year, and whenever he goes to a visiting city, as the Yankees were in Arlington for the past couple of nights, on the last night of that series, the last game of that series, the team, the home team, in this case the Texas Rangers last night, honor Derek Jeter. They have a little ceremony, they give him a gift, that kind of thing. And that's been going on all season long, and it will continue to go on as Jeter makes his farewell tour, if you will. Well, last night in Arlington, Derek Jeter got, some gifts from some of the players, and then got the surprise of his life, possibly, or at least the surprise of the farewell tour. I want you to watch.
And then I think everybody was shocked, including Derek Jeter, when out of the visiting dugout came the former president of the United States, George W. Bush, who Jeter had told famously before Game 3 of 2001, throw from the mound and don't bounce the ball because they'll boo you. And Jeter was visibly moved to have the president come there and present him with a picture of Jeter talking to him underneath these stands that day. And that was a great moment, Kenny. Everybody kind of gasped when the president walked out.
Well, President Bush and his wife Laura enjoying the ball game tonight and seeing the last appearance by Derek Jeter here at the Globe Life Park.
It's going to be tough for other teams to match bringing a president out to meet Derek, but that was a very cool moment by the Texas Rangers.
And, of course, President George W. Bush, the former president of the Texas Rangers, by coincidence. All right, you want to go back to that aforementioned incident shortly after 9/11 when George W. Bush came out, threw out the first pitch, and Derek Jeter had famously told him, "Don't bounce it or they'll boo you." Let's go back to 2001 and watch.
Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention now to the area in front of the pitcher's mound for tonight's ceremonial first pitch. And please welcome the President of the United States. Mr. President.
Boy, first of all, anytime I see a video of George W. Bush as president, but especially at that time, right after the 9/11 attacks, and then to hear Bob Shepard's voice, the late Bob Shepard, introducing, and then at the end they're saying, "Thank you, Mr. President." Majestic is all you could say, and if that doesn't send a chill up and down your spine, and if that didn't bring a tear to your eye back in 2001 as it was happening, you're really not human. But Derek Jeter was thrilled with last night. He said it's an experience. This is a gift within itself. Not too many people could say they had the president come out and honor them at a ceremony. It meant a lot to me, and it certainly should. So it was quite a sight to see last night. And there's a still picture, actually. Do we have the still picture 44 real quick here? If you just want to see it real quick as we go out. It's a pretty neat picture with the hand of George W. Bush. There you go. We'll be back with more, folks. Dr. Andrew Boston will join us, but this hour's American Moment takes a look back at the life of Martin Luther King, Jr.
January 15th, 1929 was a chilly day in Atlanta, Georgia, when a family gathered to welcome into this world a new life, and with it, a new hope for America. 2 years after his birth, his father Michael King changed his name to Martin Luther King, and then changed his son's name to Martin Luther King, Jr. Throughout his 39 years, he instilled in Americans a new spirit of justice and freedom, based on equality instead of status, and character instead of race. He waged a nonviolent war on racial segregation, with appearances that radiated with an energy that transcended all races, all faiths, and people of all ages, with words that still resonate today.
I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
He spoke to us of his dreams and his beliefs that justice too long delayed is justice denied. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
When you break down or need help fast, there's AAA and there's Auto Vantage. Let's see who has the advantage. AAA Plus covers you for up to a 100-mile radius. So for a 150-mile tow, it could cost you up to $200 out of pocket. With Auto Vantage, you're covered up to 150 miles at no additional charge. Advantage Auto Vantage. With Auto Vantage Locate Me technology, we'll find you with GPS by leveraging all the largest cellular carriers in America and provide you with professional roadside assistance.
With AAA's Find Me service, they can find you with GPS, but only if you're calling with certain carriers.
Or you can call, explain the intersection where you broke down, and hope you described your location correctly. Advantage Auto Vantage. Auto Vantage provides lockout assistance of not just your car, but your home as well, which could cost you $50 or more each time. Plus, you'll get access to our certified mechanics hotline for repair advice and to tell you what real service costs should be. So if you're considering renewing or joining AAA, stop and take advantage of our 25 years of quality service in all 50 states. Just call or log on and see our head-to-head comparison against AAA and why it makes sense to switch today, like hundreds of other benefits and discounts we offer at more than 20,000 Auto Vantage certified service centers, hotels, and car rentals. Now get ready for the best part. For a family of 4 drivers, AAA Plus could cost you $139 or more per year. Auto Vantage, $69.99. We cover you and every member of your immediate family at no additional charge, whether they're home or away. That's just the right thing to do. Advantage Auto Vantage. Call or log on now.
Call 1-800-735-4186. That's 1-800-735-4186 or log on to www.tryAutoVantage.com.
35 years ago, fly the Atlantic. Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? We choose to go to the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
عقيدتنا في قتالكم أننا سنبيدكم على بكرة أبيكم ولن نبقي منكم أحدا لأنكم ظلام الأرض وشذاذ الآفاق ومرتزقة الزمان بل مرتزقة كل زمان. راجعوا التاريخ أيها الإخوة فما وجد اليهود في مكان إلا سعوا فيه فسادا. ألم تقف على قول الله يا مسلم ويسعون في الأرض والألف واللام في كلمة الأرض تفيد الشمول والعموم ويسعون في الأرض فسادا والله لا يحب المفسدين.
All right, folks, welcome aboard. That's just your friendly sermon taking place from Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Joining us now to talk about that and what it means and the significance of it is Dr. Andrew Bostom, professor of medicine at Brown University and, of course, great author. Hello, doctor.
Hi, Steve.
All right, so tell us who this was, what exactly this was. We saw the tape from memory there. They translated it for us. Tell us what we were watching and the significance of it.
Well, you were seeing a Palestinian Hamas cleric inciting for a mass killing of the Jews, invoking a very specific Quranic motif, repeated, a Quranic theme, repeated at verse 533, so the 5th surah, the 33rd verse, and then the 64th verse of that same surah chapter, which claims that the Jews are global corruptors, basically, and that they have permanently engendered the anger of Allah and the Muslims. And again, so here he's using it as yet another one of the ad nauseum calls for a genocide of the Jews. Now, curiously, Steve, this was on the 25th. Within 4 days, the IDF bombed the studio that was broadcasting this kind of incitement to mass killing.
And this, of course, is not just, oh my gosh, how could this have happened? This is something that is commonplace not only in the Gaza Strip, but also through the so-called peace-loving, moderate Palestinian Authority-run TV, schools, mosques, you name it, correct?
Absolutely, Steve. You could take this back. You know, there's two factions, but they also often come together. The so-called sort of pseudo-secular faction, which derives from the Grand Mufti Haj Amin al-Husseini, but which is also inherently jihadist, and then of course the Hamas faction, which comes from Izzeddin al-Qassam. The rockets are named after him, and that's purely theocratic jihadist. But they work hand in glove. They have through all the period of almost 100 years now of conflagration. You know, al-Husseini is infamous during the war, for example, during World War II, for broadcasting, you know, kill the Jews wherever you find them, when he was formally allied with Hitler. But these pronouncements are embedded into the ideology of both Hamas and Fatah. The Hamas covenant is absolutely riddled with these kinds of calls. It's pure jihadism. It's pure Islamic anti-Semitism. The very opening of the Hamas covenant, which came out in August of 1988, is a Quranic verse, Quran 3:112, which talks about the Jews being permanently pitched with abasement for having killed the prophets, transgressed against Allah's will, and this is their inveterate characteristic. And the covenant goes on to call for a jihad annihilation of Israel. It invokes themes from Sunni Islamic end of times theology, the now infamous, you know, hadith, the tradition of Muhammad with the Garkad tree and the Muslims, all the trees are calling out except for the Garkad tree. There's a Jew behind me, come kill him. And this is supposed to usher in the Messianic age. So these themes are repeated not only by Hamas, but also by Fatah. The current Grand Mufti of Fatah was captured on tape repeating that same hadith of Jew annihilation about 1.5 years ago. It's also been repeated, this kind of incitement to mass violence has been repeated by the pinnacle of Sunni Islam over in Egypt at Al-Azhar University. The last two grand imams of Al-Azhar University were open in their annihilationist anti-Semitism. Both of them, both Tantawi, who died in 2010, and the current one, Al-Tayeb, the current Grand Imam, openly supported homicide bombing against non-combatants in Israel. And Tantawi, his magnum opus is a 700-page treatise that is pure Jew hatred from the Quran and from the traditions.
You know, I'm sorry to interrupt, Doctor. You know, if the American public, if the world had any desire to know this, if we had a media that had any desire to tell the story above and beyond a body count and sensational-looking video, boy, what an education they would get. I was going to ask you, before you even brought up the Palestinians' history in supporting the Nazis, you know, I don't see any difference. I don't see any real difference between Hamas and the Nazis, and certainly if they had the capability, what they would do to the Jews.
Well, exactly, Steve. I think, you know, one is a secular-based, racist, annihilationist anti-Semitism, and the other is a religious, specifically Islamic-based annihilationist anti-Semitism. The Nazis were, frankly, great admirers of these anti-Semitic themes from Islam and did whatever they could to promote them. And in fact, after the war, many key Nazis that escaped and survived not only went on to the Middle East, but converted to Islam and seemed very content with adopting Islam, and in particular its anti-Semitic themes that are redolent within Islam. I just wanted to say that today actually is a very interesting day. It's 25.5 years to the day when on January 31st, 1989, so less than 6 months after the Hamas covenant came out, my mentor, the historian David Littman, who passed away a couple of years ago, actually presented the Hamas covenant in English translation to the UN Human Rights Commission and implored them to please condemn it because, as he put it, again, 25.5 years ago, he called it a, quote, blatant blueprint for genocide. David, to his credit, over the next 2 decades would repeatedly bring the covenant up and ask, beg almost in public for the UN to condemn it, for Muslim clerics to condemn the Hamas covenant, and of course it was to no avail.
Yeah, I'm sure it was to no avail. What is you're seeing and we're all seeing going on here? Is Israel making a mistake constantly going on and answering these questions from these left-wing media outlets that obviously have determined that they're going to be on the side of the Palestinians? I mean, even today, Joe Scarborough went off the deep end, in my view, and said, "Enough, Israel, enough." I mean, you know, shouldn't they just do what they got to do and stop answering every single charge, every single bomb that goes off, every single body count, every single video released by Hamas? It just seems like they're beating their head against a wall and they're getting nowhere.
Well, I think that, you know, there's a terrible propaganda war against Israel. We were talking off camera about even something as fundamental as the casualty statistics.
Yeah, talk about the you're saying the IDF is trying to get out there the what they consider to be the accurate casualty figures from the Palestinian side.
Absolutely. Every time one of these Gaza conflagrations comes up, after the fact, the IDF does a very intensive analysis of what the actual casualties were. They've published their methodologies. I could send you the information about it. And what they find is that invariably the Palestinians, of course, the Hamas, whether it's Hamas, Fatah, and their collaborators in these so-called NGOs, grossly distort the percentage of civilian casualties. And in fact, when the final numbers are observed, they're actually no different than, sadly, what has been the phenomenon of human warfare in the modern era, which is that roughly half the casualties are going to be civilians under any circumstances. And in fact, what's remarkable is that if that number holds up in a place like Gaza, which is so densely populated, where it's been admitted even by Israel bashers that Hamas, you know, routinely is using civilian populations as human shields, you know, consistent with its martyrdom ideology, quite frankly, that would make the fact that this conflict will probably reveal that to be true again, i.e. that half the casualties will be civilian, will actually be a testament to the care with which the IDF
Absolutely.
is taking.
If you look at first of all, if you look at the circumstances, how crowded it is, and what Hamas is doing and where they're firing from, et cetera, and you look at the number of bombings and the number of strikes and the tank shells and all, and then you look at the number of casualties, it is amazingly low. I mean, if Israel was not, here's my point. Don't get me wrong, the death of any civilian is a tragedy. But if Israel were not pinpoint, if Israel were not trying their best to do what they say they're doing, and were not honest about it, you'd have tens of thousands of dead Palestinians right now.
Absolutely. And in fact...
Anyway, Doctor, we have to end it on that note. I appreciate it. Dr. Andrew Bostom, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, sir. And we'll be here to discuss, well, we'll bring you Give Me Five next. How do you like that one? On the Steve Malzberg Show.
How long have you had your car insurance?
How long have I had my car insurance? I don't know, 8, 10 years?
I couldn't tell you, but things were a lot less expensive back then.
If you're 50 or over, you should take a new look at your auto insurance. You may be overpaying.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Old policy, old rates.
And thanks to your experience behind the wheel, you might save $404 by switching to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. Plus, you'll get benefits that reward your driving record, like our promise that you won't be dropped.
Wait, you won't drop me? Seriously?
That's right, you won't be dropped. And if you know anyone who's been dropped by their insurance company, you know that's a hassle you don't need.
Especially these days.
Plus, you'll get Recover Care, which helps pay for everyday needs like house cleaning, lawn care, and pet services if you're injured in an accident.
So my auto insurance is going to help pay the house cleaning if I'm injured?
Did you say lawn care?
And if I can't walk my dog, they'll help me pay someone to do it for me.
Call the number on your screen to switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford and be rewarded for your experience behind the wheel.
Recover Care, auto insurance that helps take care of me. Now I've seen it all.
You won't drop me. You take care of me as well as my car, and you offer savings to switch. It's unbelievable.
If you're 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
I'm gonna call.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
Call the Hartford at the number on your screen to request your free quote. 1-888-529-1797. We'll even send you this free calculator. Call 1-888-529-1797 now. Why wait?
I think when people think about dogfighting, they think about the actual act, the 30 minutes, the 60 minutes, the 90 minutes of the fight. But I would imagine that the roughest part of being a fighting dog is not the fight. It's the time in between the fight, living in isolation, on these chains. It's a really sad situation.
These animals are chained up and forced to live apart from each other. The only human contact they experience is abuse. They're made to fight and then just left to die. There are so many animals out there right now who need our help. Animals who are waiting for that first touch of kindness. That's why at the ASPCA we urgently need your help. Please visit us at joinaspca.org or call the number on your screen and join with your $18 monthly gift. Our job is to save these animals, but we simply can't get to them without you. When you go online or make that call, we'll send you the picture of an animal from our shelter and an ASPCA t-shirt free.
It's an incredible experience to be able to take one of those huge collars off of a dog and walk them off of that yard and know that they will never fight again, that they won't die at the end of a chain.
Help us reach out to more animals who are waiting for help. Don't let this moment pass by. Go online or call this number now.
It's time to take a look at these stories making headlines today and weigh the good with the bad. It's time for pros and cons. Here we go. Tonight we'll be taking a look at the pros and cons of a Joe Biden presidency. He hasn't announced anything yet, but there's speculation he might run for president in 2016.
Ah, yeah, Jimmy Fallon. Welcome to Gimme 5, ladies and gentlemen. I thought it would be appropriate. This was called a must-see, can't-miss video when I was cruising around the internet looking for my Gimme 5 topics. So I said, what the heck? Let's go for it.
So let's take a look at the pros and cons of a Joe Biden presidency. Here we go. Pro, he'll no longer be number 2. Con, he'll still giggle when you say number 2.
Yeah, that's what I love about him.
Pro, he believes in a bright future for the Middle East. Con, mostly because he thinks Middle East is one of Kim and Kanye's kids. That's not it. Northwest, Middle East. Yeah, no, I can see it.
Southwest.
Southwest. All right, again, let me just point out to you folks, I don't think this is particularly funny. And there's a reason, there's a method to my madness, as there usually is, as to why I'm bringing this to you, which will become clear as we progress. Let's watch more.
Pro, for Secretary of State, he'll pick someone who's fluent in several languages and well-traveled. Con, Dora the Explorer. That's a strong choice.
Yeah, you can go a lot worse.
Yeah, you can do worse. Pro, he's looking forward to working closely with the FBI. Con, he still thinks it stands for Female Body Inspectors. That's grade school.
I think he'd learn by now. I mean, he's been in government a long time.
Pro, Biden has already spent hours in the Oval Office. Con, mostly spinning around in President Obama's chair. It's like, Joe, get out, Joe.
All right, you're getting the impression here, you're getting it that Joe is just a harmless, funny old guy who makes mistakes and can't help himself. Watch.
Pro, he's not afraid to ask the tough, hard-hitting questions. Con, like, why didn't Andy choose Nick on The Bachelorette? That's America wants to know.
Yeah.
Pro, watching him put his right hand on the Bible to recite the presidential oath. Con, watching him make L's with both hands to figure out which is right and which is left. Sometimes you got to do that.
You got to know.
And finally, Pro, his first order of business, strengthen the economy. Con, his second order of business, kill Voldemort. There you go. That's the pros and cons, everybody. We'll be right back.
All right, folks, I don't see Joe Biden as a harmless, funny guy. And if he were a Republican, he'd be out of politics. I'm not even talking about the plagiarism accusations. Remember when he was running for president in 2007 against a guy named, Barack Obama?
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
Yeah, Barack. Did you know Barack Obama was clean? Yeah, first African American president to run for president who was clean and articulate, mind you. Wow. But it didn't stop there. Remember the Dunkin' Donuts 7-Eleven remark?
In Delaware, the largest growth in population is Indian Americans moving from India. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking. Oh, gigantic.
I'm not joking. Can't go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts if you don't have a slight Indian accent. Remember, Macaca got Senator George Allen kicked out of politics. Now, perhaps the most damning, I want to put up on the screen. Washington Post editorial board, October 25th of 2007. This is what Biden said when asked, why is the education system so much better in Iowa, for instance, than it is in Washington, D.C.? And listen to this for racism. There's less than 1% of the population of Iowa that's African American. There is probably less than 4 or 5% that are minorities. What is Washington? Well, we know Washington is overwhelmingly African American, right? So he says, look, it goes back to what you start off with, what you're dealing with. In other words, the education system in Iowa is better because there's more whites. And it's worse in D.C. because look at all the blacks. You put that together with the Dunkin' Donuts, with the first clean, articulate African American to run for president, any Republican would have been out for good for any one of them. But yet on Jimmy Fallon, on the Steve Malzberg Show.